Let yourself get comfortable. You don't have to do anything right now. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to figure anything out. You're allowed, for the next little while, to just listen and let your mind rest in the idea that you are not stuck. Because that's where we're going tonight. We're going to talk softly and slowly about how your brain is not finished. It is not set in stone. You're not just like this forever. Your habits, your reactions, the way you talk to yourself when no one else can hear you, none of that is permanently welded in place. Your brain is still being shaped right now, even as you listen, by what you repeat, what you focus on, and what you allow yourself to experience. That ability to change, to rewire, to physically reshape its own connections across your entire life is called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is not positive thinking. It's not wishful thinking. It's not just be happy. It is literal biology. Your brain is a living network of cells that talk to each other. And the more often certain cells talk, the stronger their relationship becomes. A pathway forms, a default forms. It becomes easier and easier for your brain to travel that path again, without effort. That's also how emotional baselines form. You've probably heard some version of the phrase, neurons that fire together wire together. What that means is the things you practice, not just actions, but feelings, thoughts, narratives, get easier to access. If you practice tension, tension becomes easy. If you practice guilt, guilt becomes fast. Your brain will offer self-attack automatically, because it assumes we use this a lot. This must be important. That sounds unfair. But it's actually hopeful, because the same exact system works in the other direction. You can also practice calm. You can also practice safety. You can also practice self-support and quiet relief. And if you do it consistently, even in tiny doses, your brain will start offering those up more easily, too. Let's sit with something that almost nobody tells you. Your default mood is not your personality. It's mostly repetition. Most of us walk around believing I'm just an anxious person, or I'm just not a happy person, or my mind just works like this. We say it like it's eye color, like it's baked in, like it's permanent. But often, what we call our personality is just what our nervous system has rehearsed the most. Think about that for a second. Your brain pays attention to whatever gets repeated, whatever feels urgent, whatever feels necessary for survival. It does not stop and ask, is this good for us? It just says, we seem to be doing this a lot, so it'll make it easier. It's trying to be efficient. This is why worry feels automatic. This is why tension feels automatic. This is why self-criticism feels automatic. It's not that those states are more true. It's just that they've been practiced more often. And here's the part that stings a little. We almost never notice that we're practicing them. No one wakes up and says, today I will rehearse emotional tension for 7 hours so I can get even better at it. You don't schedule that. It happens in these tiny background loops. The way you replay one uncomfortable conversation over and over. The way you mentally prepare for disaster so you're never caught off guard. The way you assume other people are disappointed in you before they even say anything. The way you talk to yourself in the second person, like you're scolding a child. You do it again and again, and your brain quietly learns. This is home. And then this is the sneaky part. It starts feeding those states back to you without you even asking. You wake up already braced. You haven't even had a thought yet, and your stomach is already tight. That's not personality. That's conditioning. Now, none of this means you're broken. In fact, it means the opposite. It means you're adaptive. Your brain's #1 job is not to make you happy. Its job is to keep you alive. Survival first, comfort later. If your life has required you to stay alert, emotionally, physically, socially, your brain will learn to hold tension. If your past has taught you that being relaxed is unsafe, it will treat relaxation like a threat. If you've been around people who explode, withdraw, judge, or disappear, your brain will build early. Warning systems, little scanners, constant monitoring, always asking, are we okay? Are we okay? Even when nothing is actually happening in the moment. That can make your body feel like it's living at a low simmer all the time. Muscles a little tight, jaw a little clenched, mind a little forward, always solving. It can make resting feel wrong. Silence can feel dangerous. Slowness can feel like failure. Calm can actually feel suspicious. If any of that sounds familiar, I want you to hear something very clearly. That response is intelligent. You adapted. You built armor. You built prediction systems. You built coping strategies that let you get through things other people don't even see. There is nothing weak about that. That is not a flaw. That is proof that your brain listened to what life demanded from you and said, okay, he'll get you through this. The only issue is that armor, once it keeps you alive, tends to stick around. Even when you're finally allowed to rest, your body doesn't always get the memo. You're safe, but you still feel unsafe. You're okay, but you still feel like you're about to not be okay. You're home, but you still feel like you're under review. That's where neuroplasticity becomes more than a cool word. That's where it becomes a door. Because the exact same brain that learned constant tension keeps us safe can slowly learn steady softness, keeps us safe now. The same brain that learned to attack myself before anyone else can learn to speak to myself like an ally, because I am on my own side now. The same nervous system that learned be on high alert at all times can learn we don't have to live on high alert all day, every day. That shift from survival mode as default to regulated mode as default is possible. Not instantly, not dramatically, but it's possible. And that has nothing to do with pretending your life is easy. It has to do with giving your brain new material to practice. Let's talk about that. When people hear rewire your brain for joy, a lot of them roll their eyes because it sounds like fake positivity. You might even feel a little annoyed at the idea because you're thinking, I can't just decide to be happy. And you're right. You can't snap your fingers and become joyful on command. You can't force your body to feel safe if it doesn't. You can't bully yourself into serenity. But that's not what rewiring is. Rewiring isn't be happy. Rewiring is make safety familiar. Joy in this context is not giddiness. It's not nonstop excitement. Joy in the nervous system is actually more about grounded safety. Soft satisfaction. Quiet, okay. Ness, the feeling of I don't have to fight this second. The feeling of for right now, nothing is chasing me. That state, that exhale, is chemistry. Your brain and body release signals that say we can rest. We can connect. We're not in immediate danger. Your heart rate settles. Your muscles soften. Your attention widens. You're not hunting for threats. You're not rehearsing arguments. You're not bracing for impact. Here's the hard truth: your brain will give you stress automatically, but it will not necessarily give you that kind of calm automatically. Calm is quieter. Calm is easier to miss. Your threat systems are loud. Your comfort systems whisper, which means you can absolutely go through a whole day with little pockets of safety, a kind glance from someone, a moment of warmth in the shower, sunlight on your face. The feeling of being understood for once, and not actually register any of it. You lived it, but you didn't log it. And the brain only builds what it longs. So part of rewiring is not creating fake happiness. It's noticing real safety. You're teaching your attention to tag the moments that say we're okay in this second, so your brain can file them as important instead of throwing them away. Let's make this practical. Imagine you wake up in the morning and your first feeling is tension. Before you've even sat up, you're already thinking about work or money or conversations you're dreading. Your body is already in guard mode. That's the highway. That's the well-traveled route. That's what your brain expects, because that's what usually happens. Now imagine inserting the tiniest possible interruption. Not a whole morning routine, not an hour of journaling. I mean 20 seconds, just 20 quiet seconds, where you pause and let your body feel the actual physical support underneath you. Bed, couch, blanket, whatever it is. Notice the way you are being held up without effort. Notice that in this one small slice of time, you're not running, you're not performing. No one is asking you for anything in this exact second. And then you give yourself one sentence, something simple, Something honest, not forced positivity. More like him, allowed to start slow. That's it. That's the whole exercise. The first morning you do it, it'll feel pointless. The third morning, your brain will already start predicting it. That's the key. Your brain is a prediction machine. It wants to know what usually happens next so it can preload the response. And if what happens next every single morning is immediate panic, it will start handing you panic before you're even awake. But if what happens next starts to include a consistent 20-second pocket of deliberate softening, then eventually your brain will begin to preload that too. This is the boring, unglamorous, real version of rewiring. You are training your nervous system's expectation. You are saying we don't always launch at full speed. Sometimes we start gentle. At first, your body won't believe you. That's normal. You've spent years teaching it the opposite. But repetition is how it learns. Not force. Here's another piece that matters more than people admit: the way you talk to yourself when you are overwhelmed. What is your internal tone? Not the words, the tone. Is it harsh? Is it disgusted? Is it disappointed? Is it, what is wrong with you? Why can't you handle this like everyone else? Or is it steady? Is it, okay, yeah, this is a lot. That makes sense. Breathe. Well, move one piece at a time. That tone is not emotional fluff. Your nervous system is always listening to how you speak to you. If the voice in your head is cold, cruel, or impatient, your body interprets that as social danger. It's as if you are trapped in a room with someone who does not like you. Your stress response stays high because, in a way, you are under attack from you. But if the voice in your head is steady, not fake cheerful, just steady. Like, hey, I'm here, I'm not leaving. It's okay to pause. That registers as safety. Safety doesn't always mean everything is fine. Sometimes safety just means I'm not alone with this. That is powerful. When you start becoming a kinder presence to yourself, you're not being cheesy. You're telling your biology you are not isolated in threat. You are supported in stress. You have backup, and bodies calm down faster when they feel accompanied. This is the part some people resist, because they've gotten used to motivating themselves with shame. If I'm not hard on myself, it'll fall apart. You might believe that. You might believe softness equals laziness. Let me offer you something gently. You are not getting anxious because you're too soft on yourself. You're getting anxious because your body thinks it's in danger. Beating yourself up doesn't turn that danger signal off. It turns it up. We're not trying to make you nice. We're trying to make your nervous system feel less hunted. One more thing before we pause for now. When people hear about neuroplasticity, they often think it means, I can flip a switch and change overnight. That's not how this works. Neuroplasticity isn't a makeover montage. It's more like slowly warming frozen ground so something can finally grow there. Little signals, repeated. Little moments of safety, repeated. Little acts of self-support, repeated. This is how you move your baseline. Not the dramatic peak moments, not the once-a-year huge breakthrough. Baseline, the quiet place you return to when nothing special is happening. Most people think that baseline is fixed. It isn't. It's trainable. And here's the beautiful part: your baseline does not have to be joy. Full to be life-changing. It just has to be less punishing, less constant bracing, less constant self-attack, less constant, what's wrong now? Imagine a life where your resting state is not panic, but a kind of low, steady, I can handle this. Imagine a body that doesn't wake up already clenched. Imagine a voice in your mind that doesn't immediately turn on you the second you're tired. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when you give your brain new patterns to expect. So as we move forward, we're going to keep exploring how to do that. How attention can act like a sculpting tool. How tiny physical habits can feed the chemistry of safety. How movement, breath, sunlight, stillness, connection, small wins, and honest self talk are cute wellness trends. They're inputs that teach your nervous system what normal should feel like. For now, let this sink in. You are not stuck with the first draft of your mind. You are in motion. Your wiring is alive. Your baseline is teachable, and whether or not you can feel it yet, your brain is still becoming. Let's stay right here for a moment and talk about something that quietly runs your entire life without you really noticing it, where your attention rests. Your attention is not just mental, it's physical. Wherever your attention lives most of the time, your nervous system will start treating that place as home base. If your attention spends most of the day scanning for what's wrong, your body will live in something's wrong. If your attention spends even a little more time noticing what is actually okay right now, your body will start to learn not everything is on fire in this moment. That sounds small. It isn't. Your attention is how you feed your brain data about reality. And your brain is constantly updating its map of how safe am I. Based on that data, let's say you're sitting alone in a quiet room. Nothing is attacking you. Nothing is actively happening. You're replaying something from 3 days ago. A look someone gave you. A tone. A moment where you think you embarrassed yourself. Your body does not know that you are remembering. It reacts like you are experiencing. Your shoulders come up. Your stomach tightens. Your breath gets shallow. Your heart rate ticks up. As far as your nervous system is concerned, the threat is happening now because your attention is on it now. This is how we accidentally keep ourselves in a state of constant emergency with no obvious cause. You can be physically safe but internally under attack all day. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine that same quiet room. You're sitting there. Your brain starts doing what it always does, pulling you towards some old conversation, some upcoming worry. And instead of letting it fully take you hostage, you interrupt yourself with something incredibly ordinary. You shift your attention to the temperature in the room, the exact feeling of air on your face, the way your clothes sit on your body, the heaviness of your legs where they're resting, the way your jaw softens when you let it. That sounds almost insultingly simple, right? But here's what's actually happening when you do that. You are giving your brain live data. You are saying, in this second, we are not being chased. In this second, we are physically supported. In this second, we're allowed to release just a little. That's not denial. That's not pretending you don't have problems. That's feeding your nervous system information it almost never receives. Because you almost never pause long enough to deliver it, your stress response is not evil. It's protective. It works hard. It keeps you standing. But it can't stand down unless it gets proof that it's allowed to. You can't just tell it calm down. It doesn't listen to language. It listens to signals. Where you place attention is a signal. Think of attention like a hand on the steering wheel. You don't have to crank the wheel 90 degrees. Just a tiny turn, again and again, changes the direction you travel. The first 1,000 times you try to redirect your attention from panic to what is real right now, in my body, it won't feel natural. You'll feel impatient. You'll feel like, this is doing nothing. I'm still tense. That's normal. You're not doing it wrong. You're just working with a system that has been repeatedly trained to expect threat. This is where most people quietly give up, because they assume if it doesn't fix me instantly, it's useless. That's not how nervous systems shift. You're not clearing an error message on a screen. You're teaching a living animal that it doesn't have to flinch every second. And animals don't learn from speeches. They learn from consistent experience. So instead of thinking, why am I not calm yet? Try this. I am feeding my body one more tiny moment of safety. One more. One more. One more. It's repetition that does the work. Let's talk about the body for a bit, because this is where a lot of people feel broken, and you're not. When your body is holding stress, it's not just in your mind. It really does sit in your muscles, in your posture, in your breathing pattern, in how tightly you grip your hands without noticing. To ease this idea, we tell ourselves, it's just in my head, like that makes it less real. But if your shoulders are up around your ears, if your jaw's clenched, if your stomach feels like a fist, that is not in your head. That's tension you could take a picture of. Your body has learned ready, it has learned brace, and the body version of neuroplasticity is this: whatever state you return to most becomes baseline. Hold tension 12 hours a day, and your baseline becomes tension. Release it in little intentional drops throughout the day. And your baseline very slowly begins to include not braced as an option. So how do you do that without it becoming another chore? Try this. Pick one place in your body that you know tends to grip. For a lot of people, it's the shoulders. For some, it's the throat. For some, the belly. For some, the space between the eyebrows. You don't have to fix all of you. Just choose one spot and check in with that spot a few times a day. Not for 5 minutes, for 5 seconds. Noticing is the first layer. You don't even have to change it right away. Just, oh, my jaw's locked again. I didn't even know. That I didn't even know is huge. You cannot release what you cannot feel. A lot of us have numbness where we should have signals, and tension where we should have rest. We're flipped. We are so used to carrying stress that we stop registering it as stress. We call it normal. We call it my personality. We call it, I just carry it in my shoulders. Like that's no big deal. But your body isn't meant to live in permanent contraction. And every time you notice that tension without judging yourself for it, you're doing 2 things. First, you're reminding your system, oh, this isn't invisible. I can feel this. I can work with this. I'm not just at the mercy of it. Second, you're interrupting autopilot. You're waking up in the middle of the trance. And that moment of awareness is already plasticity. That moment is already a new firing pattern. You're not unconscious inside the old loop anymore. You're in the loop and seeing it. That matters. Later, once noticing feels less foreign, you can add release, gentle, not forced. For example, unclench your jaw and let your tongue rest a little heavier in your mouth. That tiny adjustment sends a parasympathetic signal, basically a message that says we're not in immediate danger. Or drop your shoulders 1 centimeter, not roll them dramatically, not stretch like a fitness ad. Just let them fall 1 notch from where they've been hovering. Or let your belly soften for 1 breath, even if just for 2 seconds. People underestimate how powerful that is because it feels too small to matter. But your nervous system listens to small. Your nervous system speaks small. If you've been living in braced mode for years, relaxing fully on command might actually feel scary. It might feel like falling. So we don't go from 100% tight to 100% loose. We go from 100% tight to 97% tight. And we celebrate that as progress, because it is. Here is something else your body needs to hear. And yes, I mean hear, because the language you use inside your own mind becomes part of the environment you live in. You're allowed to feel okay even if everything isn't fixed yet. Most of us do not let ourselves access relief until the entire situation is solved. You'll relax when the project is done. You'll calm down when they text me back. You'll feel all right when the money lands. You'll take a break when I finally get it together. Which means we hold ourselves in distress for days, weeks, sometimes years at a time, waiting for permission that never comes. Your nervous system cannot wait that long. If you only ever let your body exhale after every single possible threat is solved, you will almost never exhale. Because life, realistically, will almost never present you with a moment where absolutely nothing needs attention. There will always be one more thing. So instead of I can only rest when everything is done, try this. I can rest for 30 seconds, even while things are unfinished. That feels wrong at first. It feels irresponsible. It feels selfish, especially if you grew up in chaos or in a home where rest was labeled as laziness, or where being relaxed meant you'd get blindsided. But here is the truth. Refusing to rest doesn't make you safer. It just exhausts you so deeply that you lose your ability to respond with clarity. You end up reacting from depletion instead of responding from stability. Think of calm not as a luxury, but as maintenance. Like charging the battery. You are not spoiling yourself by letting your body power down for a moment. You're keeping the machine from burning out. Let's widen this to the emotional level. To raise a thing that happens to almost everyone who has carried stress for a long time. You start believing that feeling good is suspicious. The moments where you do feel okay, maybe you're laughing with someone, maybe you're absorbed in something you like. Maybe you're just lying down and your body feels kind of heavy and safe. Those moments come with a tiny spike of careful. A little voice that whispers, don't get too comfortable. This won't last. Something always ruins it. That voice is not you being negative. That voice is you trying to hurt so you don't get blindsided by disappointment. It is self-protection. It's if I lower my guard, you'll get hit harder. Here's the problem. If you never let yourself feel good because you're bracing for bad, your brain never gets to learn what good feels like. It doesn't get to map it. It doesn't get to say, oh, this state exists. We should return to this more often. So pleasure, safety, comfort, they stay foreign, and whatever stays foreign feels unsafe. This is one of the quiet reasons joy can feel uncomfortable. You haven't failed at happiness. You've just rarely been allowed to stay there long enough for it to feel familiar. That's why when we talk about rewiring for joy, we are not chasing huge highs. We are building tolerance for okay-ness. We are building capacity for I am all right for this moment and am allowed to be. We are letting your nervous system sit in that state for 10 more seconds than usual, then 20, then 40, without immediately pulling itself back into stress just to feel normal. This, by the way, is actual emotional strength. Emotional strength is not I never feel anxious, or nothing bothers me, or am bulletproof. Emotional strength is I can let myself feel safe without panicking about it. I can return to calm without calling myself weak. I can feel okay for a little while without guilt. That is resilience. And resilience is teachable. A lot of people hear resilience and think it means keep pushing no matter what. That's not resilience. That's strain. Real resilience is how efficiently you come back down after you get triggered, how smoothly you return to baseline, how quickly your system can say, that was intense, but we are not going to live inside that intensity all day. That bounce back ability, that return to center is plastic. You can train it. The same way you can train a muscle to recover faster between sets. You can train your nervous system to settle more quickly after spikes. Here is one way to start doing that in real life without making it a project next time you feel yourself getting flooded. That hot rush of stress, that urge to defend, explain, fix, run, shut down. Instead of trying to make it disappear, just add one sentence to the moment. Of course, I'm activated right now. That's it. Not I shouldn't be. Not why am I like this. Just of course I'm activated. That alone takes you out of self, judgment, and puts you into self, witness, and that tiny shift matters chemically. Judgment keeps you in the threat loop. Witnessing starts to move you out. You are telling your body, this reaction makes sense. We are not broken. We are responding to something that feels like a threat. That's allowed. You lower the secondary panic, the panic about the panic. And when you lower that, your system doesn't have to escalate as hard. And the faster you stop escalating, the faster you start recovering. Recovery is where rewiring happens, not in the spike, in the settling. So if you've ever felt like, I get overwhelmed so easily, there is something wrong with me, I want to offer you another angle. The question is not do you get overwhelmed. The question is, do you have a pathway back? If the answer right now is not really, that's not a moral failure. That just means no one showed you how to build one. You're about to. One last thought before we move deeper. Please be gentle with this part. You do not have to earn the right to feel okay. Your brain may try to negotiate with you. You can relax once you prove you deserve it. You can feel good once you've fixed everything you ever did wrong. You can feel safe once you become perfect. That deal will never close. Perfection isn't coming. Total control isn't coming. Absolute certainty isn't coming. Life will always include moving parts you can't manage. So if you wait for flawless conditions before letting your body downshift, you'll wait forever. Instead, we're going to practice something very quiet and very brave, letting a little bit of okay in early, before you're done, before everything's solved. Letting your system taste safety sooner. Because here's the truth. Your survival brain doesn't know yet. Safety is not a reward for having no problems. Safety is the foundation that lets you solve your problems. A regulated body. A regulated body communicates better. A regulated body remembers options. Panic shrinks your world down to one reaction. Regulation gives you choices. And choice, more than anything, is what feeling free actually is. So as we keep going, we're going to keep building this idea that you can show your brain and body how to come back to steady. Not once in a while, but repeatedly, deliberately, until steady stops being a rare event and starts becoming home, let's talk about those pathways back to steady, because that's where real change lies, not in the idea, but in the repeatability. Your brain is always wiring and rewiring. That's not poetic. That's literal neurons that fire together, which means whatever you practice, you get better at. Not just skills like playing piano or solving math problems. States, you can practice being tense, you can practice being afraid, you can practice being self-critical, and your brain, being efficient, will automate whatever you rehearse the most. If your default reaction to stress is "this is my fault, you're messing everything up," that's not proof that you're broken. That's proof that this particular pathway has gotten a lot of reps. Here's the important part. If a pathway can be strengthened, it can also be weakened. And if a pathway can be weakened, a new one can be grown beside it. That's neuroplasticity. You are not stuck with your first draft. Most people think rewiring the brain sounds like this huge, dramatic spiritual event, like lightning hits you and suddenly you're calm and wise and healed. But rewiring doesn't feel like revelation. It feels like repetition. Very boring repetition. Imagine you're walking through tall grass. The first time you push through, it's awkward. You're stepping over stems, getting brushed in the face, not sure where to put your feet. That's what it feels like the first time you try to respond to stress differently than usual. It's clumsy. You don't trust it. You feel silly. You feel fake. But if you walk that same line through the grass again tomorrow, and then again, and then again, the grass begins to lay down. The path starts to form. You don't have to think about where your foot goes. Eventually, you just take the path. That's what you're doing with your nervous system. You are laying down a path back to regulation, so that in the future, you don't have to fight for it each time. You can just find it. This is why, when it comes to nervous system work, small and repeatable beats intense and rare. One calm breath in the middle of a tense moment, every day, is more powerful than one huge meditation once a month. One tiny release of the shoulders 3 times today is more powerful than a full massage you get twice a year. Telling yourself, of course, I'm activated during every spike this week is more rewiring than telling yourself once, dramatically, in a journal, and never again, not theater. Your brain pays attention to what you do often, not what you do intensely. Let's get practical with this, because I want you to be able to use it, not just understand it. Imagine something small stresses you, not a catastrophe, just one of those little hits you get all day, an email you didn't want, a tone in someone's message, a bill that shows up sooner than you expected. You feel that familiar hit in your body. Maybe your throat tightens, maybe your stomach drops, maybe your chest gets buzzy. In that moment, you have 2 layers. Layer 1 is the stressor. Layer 2 is your response to your stress. We almost never touch that second layer. We just get swept. So here is the exercise, and it will not feel natural at first. Step 1, pause for 2 seconds. Literally 2. Not a dramatic pause, just a soft interruption. You're not ignoring the problem. You're creating a sliver of space between thing happened and them spiraling. Step 2, name what's happening in your body without adding a story. Heart's fast, jaws tight, heat in my face. This is important. You're describing, not interpreting. You're not saying, I'm freaking out. I'm so bad at this, I can't handle anything. You're just quietly scanning like a neutral observer. Why does this matter? Because the moment you shift from I am the panic to I am noticing the panic, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that helps you regulate, plan, choose, comes back online. You're stepping out of pure survival mode. You're re-entering choice. Step 3, one physical downshift, not a thought, a physical cue. Drop your shoulders that 1 centimeter. Loosen your jaw. Exhale slowly through the mouth, like you're fogging a mirror. Let your belly soften for 1 breath. Something tiny, simple, low effort. That's it. That whole sequence takes maybe 8 seconds in real time. But what it's doing under the hood is training a loop. Stimulus, check, in downshift. Stress, awareness, release over and over. That's the path in the grass. If you do this a dozen times today, congratulations, you just rehearsed regulation 12 times without sitting cross-legged in silence. without rearranging your whole schedule, without needing a perfect environment. You did it while living. That's how the brain learns. That's how safety becomes familiar. Now, here is something that surprises a lot of people. It might not feel good when you do it. Sometimes, when you soften your body, even a little, you might feel sad. You might feel shaky. You might feel like you're about to cry for no reason. That does not mean you're doing damage. That usually means you've been holding yourself in tension for so long that the first drop of release lets old overwhelm float up. Think of it like loosening the lid on a jar. Pressure that was locked in finally has a way out. That can feel like, oh, but it's actually, oh, this is leaving. If that happens, go slow. You don't have to force yourself wide open. Just acknowledge it. Okay? To raise a lot here, hand on your chest or hand on the side of your neck. You stay with yourself in a way maybe no one stayed with you when you were younger and overwhelmed. That right there, I'm here with me while I feel this, is re-parenting on a nervous system level. And yes, your brain learns from that. Let's talk about self-talk, because self-talk is not just thoughts floating around. Self-talk is stimulus. Your inner voice is part of the environment your brain is adapting to. If your inner world sounds like keep it together, don't be weak. Get over it. What's wrong with you? Your nervous system never really gets to leave threat because it's being told that it is the threat. You become the thing you're braced against. You're always in trouble with yourself. Today is no safe home base. But if your inner world sounds more like, of course, this is intense, or we're going to take a second, it's allowed, or even just, hey, stay with me. You're giving your body the same reassurance a steady friend would give a panicking child. That's not corny, that's regulation. Please hear this. You cannot bully your way into calm. Your body does not relax because you yelled calm down at yourself. Your body relaxes when it senses it's allowed to. When it trusts it won't be punished for letting go. So when you speak to yourself with less hostility, you are not being soft. You are literally increasing your capacity to recover between hits. That recovery time. That's health. Now let's zoom out a little farther. To read something almost nobody tells you about your brain. It will normalize whatever it encounters most, even if it's not good for you. If you spend 5 years in constant urgency, urgency will start to feel normal. If you spend 10 years constantly criticizing yourself, that criticism voice will feel true. If you spend months in numbness, numbness will feel safer than feeling anything at all. Your brain is loyal to repetition, not to joy. Which means if you've lived a long time in tension and hypervigilance, calm might not feel good at first. It might feel unfamiliar. And unfamiliar, to a survival system, reads as danger. That's why some people get restless in quiet rooms. That's why some people feel agitated on vacation. That's why some people, when they finally have nothing to do, suddenly feel a wave of dread and go looking for something to fix. It's not because you can't relax. It's because your nervous system is adapted to a higher baseline of activation. And dropping below that baseline feels wrong, too exposed, too unguarded. This is where patience comes in. You are not just calming down, you are teaching your body that calm is allowed to be home. That quiet is not a trap. That stillness does not mean incoming. That teaching takes time. And while that's happening, you may feel bored, fidgety, guilty, or oddly unsafe in moments that are objectively safe. You didn't fail. You're literally in the middle of the rewiring process. If anything, that discomfort is proof that change is happening. Think of it like brightening a dark room. At first, the light hurts your eyes. You want to turn it off and go back to dim, because dim is familiar. But if you stay with it gently, your eyes adjust. Suddenly, you can see more of the room. You can move without bumping into things. You can breathe without bracing. That's what you're doing with safety. You are slowly letting in a little more I am okay right now, long enough for your internal senses to adapt to it. So that okay stops feeling suspicious and starts feeling normal. Now, I want to say something that matters here. You don't have to earn that feeling by fixing your entire life first. We keep circling this because this is where so many people get stuck. You can be in debt and still give your body 30 seconds of physiological safety. You can be grieving and still let your shoulders fall for one breath. You can be mid-argument, mid-healing, mid-chaos, and still put a hand on your own chest and say, "I'm here." That's not denial. That's how you stay intact while you live through it. You are not abandoning your problems. You're resourcing yourself so you can actually handle them. Let's connect this to identity, because eventually this moves from something I do to someone I am. Most of us carry invisible identities. We didn't consciously choose. Identities like him, the one who holds everything together, him the one who never needs help, him the one who can't fall apart, him the one who fixes, him the strong one. Those identities sound admirable. They also keep you from ever letting the guard down, because if your role in every room is the steady one, then you are never allowed to actually need steadiness from someone else. You can't cry. You can't say, "I'm overwhelmed." You can't step back. You can't be messy. You're not a person. You're infrastructure. And infrastructure doesn't get hugs. Here's something gentle, and you don't have to answer out loud. Just notice what happens in your body. When you hear it, you are allowed to not be the strong one all the time. If that sentence made your throat tighten, or made your stomach drop, or made you want to argue, that's important. That's your protective identity, saying, if I'm not the strong one, who will keep things from collapsing? Who will take care of everyone? Who will take care of me? And that right there is why this matters. Because if your only safety strategy is "I will handle it all," then your entire nervous system is tied to constant performance. There is no rest. There is only hold it together. And that state, held for years, isn't resilience. It's survival mode with good branding. True resilience, the kind that doesn't break you over time, includes the skill of letting yourself be supported. Support can look like other people, yes, but it also starts inside you. Support is the moment you say to yourself, "I see how hard this is for you." Most of us never say that to ourselves. We rush right past it to "Why aren't you doing better?" Try it the next time you feel yourself at your limit. "I see how hard this is for you." You don't even have to fix anything after you say it. Just witness yourself. That alone is a crack in the old pattern, because the old pattern says, you don't get to be human. You're a function. The new pattern says, you're a human. You get to have limits. That shift, that permission to be human, is not soft. It's structural. It's the beginning of a different nervous system story, and here's where it all ties together. Attention teaches safety. Micro, release teaches safety. Gentle self, talk teaches safety. Permission to have limits teaches safety. Safety, repeated, becomes familiarity. Familiarity becomes baseline. Baseline becomes identity. And identity becomes, this is just how I live now. That's how rewiring actually feels from the inside. Not dramatic, not mystical, just gradually less war, gradually more home. So as we keep going, we're going to start exploring something beautiful and maybe a little uncomfortable joy. Jumping up and down kind, the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need an audience. The kind your nervous system doesn't quite trust yet. But will. Joy is a funny word. A lot of people don't trust it. For some of us, joy doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel stable. It feels like the part in the movie right before something bad happens. If you grew up waiting for the mood in the room to flip, you might have learned that feeling good is actually dangerous, because when things felt good, that's when the floor used to drop. So now, even as an adult, your body is scanning for impact anytime you start to relax. That's not you being dramatic. That's your nervous system trying to protect you from whiplash. Here's how that protection works. Your body quietly runs a background calculation that goes something like, if I don't get too happy, I won't get blindsided. If I don't get too hopeful, I won't get disappointed. If I don't let this feel good, I won't have to feel it being taken. That strategy makes sense when you're living in real instability. It just becomes painful when stability finally shows up and you can't feel it. That's why for a lot of people, happiness feels suspicious. Calm feels boring. Rest feels wrong. Safety feels off. And then they think something is wrong with them because they can't seem to enjoy their life. But really, what's wrong is that joy in their system still equals vulnerable. So let's say this very clearly. You are not broken if ease feels uncomfortable. Ease is just not yet familiar. And just like anything unfamiliar, your brain will resist it at first. That's okay. We're going to make it familiar, but not in a cheesy, just be grateful way. We're going to talk about a very quiet, very small kind of joy, regulated joy, grounded joy, nourishing joy. The kind that doesn't spike you, doesn't overstimulate you, and doesn't set off alarms. Because here is something most people miss: joy can be dysregulating. Think about big excitement, loud laughter, adrenaline, celebration, intensity. That's still arousal. That's still activation. It's technically positive stress, but your nervous system can read it as too much, just like it reads panic as too much. If you've been carrying tension for years, you don't actually need more too much, even if it has a smile on it. You don't need fireworks. You need warmth. So when we talk about rewiring for joy, we're not talking about chasing highs. We're talking about training your system to allow in small, safe, steady moments of okay-ness without immediately rejecting them. Joy, in this work, means I'm allowed to experience something pleasant without bracing. That's the muscle. Let's practice in a way that doesn't feel fake. Right now, wherever you are, find one thing in your environment that is even slightly not terrible, not amazing, not life-changing, just not terrible. It could be the way the fabric feels on your skin. It could be a spot of warm light on your hand. It could be the quiet hum in the room. It could be the fact that for this 1 minute, no one is demanding anything from you. It could be my spine is supported by this chair. It could be my feet are on something solid. Pick one. Name it gently in your mind. Now, and this is the important part, let yourself notice that it's okay. Not perfect, not forever, not incurred. Just this is okay right now, and then stay with that okay. Nest for one slow breath longer than you normally would before moving on. That extra breath is the rep. Why does that matter? Because the nervous system does not rewire from concept. It rewires from felt experience. You can explain to yourself all day long that you deserve rest, but unless your body has the lived moment of I am resting and nothing bad is happening to me right now, the belief won't land. Your survival brain won't update. I tell just file I deserve rest under cute theory. That one extra breath of this is okay and I'm allowed to notice it as data. You are feeding your body a new piece of evidence. Safe good exists. The first time you do this, your mind might argue with you. It might say, yeah, but there are still bills. Yeah, but we're behind. Yeah, but what about tomorrow? That's expected. That's just the guard dog at the door. That voice has been hired for years to keep you alert. You don't have to fight it. When that, yeah, but voice shows up, you don't have to shut it down. You don't have to prove it wrong. You can just say, well, handle that. Right now we're doing one breath of a loud okay. This is not you ignoring reality. It's you including yourself in reality. Here's why this is powerful. If your nervous system only ever encodes pain, urgency, and problem solving, guess what? It's going to prep you for tomorrow. More pain, more urgency, more problems. Not because you're manifesting negativity, just because your brain is efficient. It prepares you for whatever you've been living in. But if, even for 20 seconds, you let your body record, and also sometimes we get to experience small safety, then your nervous system has to make room for that possibility next time. You are literally broadening the menu of what today can be. That's neuroplasticity toward joy, not chasing good, allowing good. And that's a completely different energy than forced positivity. Forced positivity is everything's fine. Everything's fine. Don't feel anything. Smile. That's not regulation. That's suppression in a nice outfit. Allowed good as things are complicated. And also, in this exact second, this one sensation is kind to me. That, over time, is healing. Now, you might already feel some resistance to this. You may notice thoughts like, I don't have time to pause and feel warm light on my hand. I have responsibilities, or this is soft. I need solutions. Not cozy feelings. Okay, let's respect that. Let's talk about why allowing small, safe, good moments actually helps you solve things better. Not worse, your problem-solving brain. The part of you that can prioritize, plan, make choices, take action. Does not work well when you're in full survival mode. When you're flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, your body is optimized for running and defending, not reflecting and strategizing. So if you tell yourself no breaks, no softness, no comfort, we grind until this is fixed, what you're actually doing is keeping yourself in a state where you can't think clearly, can't access creativity, can't evaluate trade-offs, can't communicate well, and can't regulate impulses. Your logic gets worse in threat. You snap faster in threat. You spend money worse in threat. You eat, scroll, argue, and decide from panic and threat. But a nervous system that has even a tiny bit of practice downshift can step out of urgency long enough to choose a better move. That's not indulgence. That's capacity. Softness is not the opposite of strength. Softness is what lets strength last. In other words, you're not doing these tiny let me feel something okay for a breath moments instead of handling your life. You are doing them so that you can keep handling your life without burning your wiring. Because burnout is not I can't take it anymore. Burnout is my system doesn't believe relief is ever coming, so it's shutting functions down to survive the long haul. You're showing your system relief does exist. Here is 20 seconds of it, here is proof, and now your system doesn't have to shut down as hard. It doesn't have to numb you as deeply. It doesn't have to dissociate to get you through, because you are giving it micro. Rest in real time. That skill is rare. That skill is power. Let's go one layer deeper. When you start letting yourself feel those small, safe, good moments, something else begins to quietly shift self-worth. Not in an Instagram quote way, biologically. Because every time you let yourself feel something nurturing, without immediately shutting it down, you send this message to your deeper wiring. I am someone it is worth caring for. That line right there is where a lot of people crack. Because many people are running on I am useful, not worthy. I am productive, not worthy. I am entertaining, not worthy. I am needed, not worthy. I am strong, not worthy. They only feel allowed to exist if they are performing some function for someone else, and if that's the only way you value self by your output. Then what happens on the days when you can't output? You call yourself lazy, you call yourself disappointing, and shame spikes, and your nervous system panics, and you push yourself harder, and now rest doesn't restore you. Rest punishes you. That loop will grind you down. No matter how capable you are, letting yourself register one small moment of comfort interrupts that loop. Because in that moment, you are not producing. You're not impressing, you're not fixing, you're not earning, you're just existing, and you're still allowed a drop of relief. That is deeply, quietly radical. That is you starting to believe. At the body level, I deserve moments of not suffering even when I'm not on. We are not talking about ego. We are talking about basic nervous system, dignity. And dignity, once it starts to root, changes how you move. It changes how you let people talk to you. It changes how long you tolerate chaos that drains you. It changes whether you apologize for having needs. It changes how quickly you abandon yourself to keep the peace. It changes whether you call exhaustion normal or unsustainable. People talk a lot about boundaries, and boundaries are important. But boundaries are a downstream effect. The thing that actually makes boundaries possible is this internal stance. I am not an object. I am a living system. I require care. If that belief doesn't exist yet in your body, you can't keep a boundary. You'll fold the second someone looks disappointed, because your survival depends on being approved of. But if that belief does exist in your body, not just as a sentence you memorized, but as a state you've practiced, then holding a boundary stops feeling like a fight. It feels like alignment. It feels like, this is just how I operate now. That starts with those tiny sips of allowed okay-ness. That is the seed. Now, Therese, one more piece we need to add to this picture, and it's going to sound simple, but sit with it. Joy can be quiet. A lot of us think if we're not lit up, laughing, overflowing, we're not feeling joy. But quiet contentment is still joy. Steady is still joy. Not braced is still joy. That kind of joy doesn't spike your heart rate, It doesn't flood you with adrenaline. It doesn't feel like a party. It feels like warmth in the chest, soft weight in the limbs, gentle presence in the face, a slight unclench behind the eyes. And if you've been living in survival mode, that kind of joy might actually be more healing than the big ecstatic version, because your body can actually tolerate it. You can sit inside it without tripping your alarms. So when you practice receiving small moments of okay-ness, warmth, quiet, support, pause, that is, you're practicing joy in a form your body can metabolize. You don't have to perform it. You don't have to post it. You don't have to prove it's big enough to count. If your shoulders drop 3 millimeters and you sighed without realizing it, that counts. That's nervous system joy. And if you're thinking that's too small to matter, let me tell you something. Gentle and maybe annoying, this is exactly how the brain wires toward threat, too. Tiny, repeated exposures. Tiny, repeated reinforcements. Tiny, repeated hits. If tiny fear reps can hardwire your stress, tiny safety reps can hardwire. Same mechanism, different fuel. This is where healing stops being abstract and starts being measurable. We go from someday it'll feel better to today I gave my body 12 seconds of safety and my shoulders actually listened. That's not nothing. That's direction. So now we're holding two truths. You are allowed to build pathways back to calm. You are allowed to feel moments of safe, good without bracing. Next, we're going to talk about what gets in the way. The interrupts, the sabotage patterns, the reflexes that pull you back into tension even when you're trying to heal, and how to work with those without attacking yourself. Let's talk about the part that doesn't get enough airtime, the resistance. Because right about now, for a lot of people, something uncomfortable starts to happen. You try to give yourself one honest moment of this is okay. And something in you snaps back with, number absolutely not. It shows up fast. And it shows up in different ways for some people. It's guilt. The second you soften, you hear, who do you think you are? Relaxing? Did you forget you still haven't done X, Y, Z? Other people have it worse. You don't get to rest. For some people, it's fear. If I slow down, it'll fall apart. If I stop holding everything up for even a second, it'll all collapse. For some people, it's numbness. You sit and try to feel warmth in your hand, or the weight of your body being supported. And Therese, nothing, just flatness. Disconnection. You're like, cool, great, Emma Stone, awesome exercise. And for some people, it's agitation. The quiet is not soothing. The quiet makes you itch. You try to drop into your body, and it just feels wrong. Almost like wearing someone else's jacket. Let's walk through those, slowly and without judgment, because all of them make sense. Start with guilt. Guilt for resting is almost never about laziness. It's about loyalty. Somewhere along the line, you learn that being the one who carries weight is part of your identity. You're the reliable one, the one who handles things, the one who keeps it together, maybe even the one who kept other people together. That becomes a role, and roles become survival strategies, and survival strategies become self-worth. So when you rest, even for a minute, it can feel like you're betraying that role. Betraying the version of you who held everyone up. Betraying the part of you that kept you safe by being on top of everything. Of course, it feels wrong. That role protected you. You think if you stop, you'll lose what made you valuable. So let's reframe. Rest is not betrayal. Rest is succession planning. You're not throwing away the part of you that carried everything. You're giving that part backup. You're building a nervous system that can keep going without needing emergency mode to be the default setting. If you burn out the ill-handled part of you, you don't become more useful, you disappear, guilt says. You owe everyone constant output. Truth says, if you fry your circuits, no one gets you at all. Rest is not quitting. Rest is preserving access to you. Then Therese fear. I can't slow down or everything is going to catch up with me. If you've avoided feeling certain things for a long time, this fear is very real. For some people, distraction is not just a habit, it's a dam. They keep moving, keep helping, keep fixing, keep scrolling, keep taking care of whoever's in front of them because they know or believe that if they stop moving, all the pain they've been holding back is going to hit at once. That fear is intelligent. It's coming from experience. If you grew up in an environment where there was no space to process anything, where meltdown wasn't allowed, where you didn't get comfort, then of course your body learned the only way to survive feelings is to not feel them. So what happens when someone like me starts talking about pausing and letting in safety? Your body hears drop the shield, and it says absolutely not. That shield is the only reason we're still here. Now, here's the part a lot of people don't get told. We are not doing rip the shield off and cry for 6 hours into the carpet work here. That can be flooding. That can overload you. That can re-traumatize you. We're doing micro adjustments, not blow the door. Open catharsis. We're not forcing a tidal wave. We're letting in a spoon of water. This is a very important difference. Nervous system work done gently is not feel everything right now. It's feel 1% more than nothing, and then stop. That's regulation. That's how you build tolerance without drowning in it. Your body is afraid of going from total suppression to emotional collapse. That's valid. That's smart. We are not doing that. We're letting you stand in the shallowest part and just put one ankle in. Then we step back out and towel off. That's how capacity grows safely. Now let's talk about numbness. Numbness is not failure. Numbness is not you're disconnected, and that's bad. Numbness is a skill. Numbness is anesthesia your body built to let you function when things were too much. So if you sit quietly for the first time in a long time and try to feel calm or soft or present, and you feel blank, that's not nothing. That's intelligence. That's your body saying, we've survived by muting. Muting work and keeping the mute button on until it's proven safe to turn it down. Don't fight it. Don't force sensation. Forcing sensation can feel like violation to a system that had to shut off for safety. Instead, try this. Don't ask, what do I feel? Ask, what do I notice? To read a big difference. What do I feel? Assumes access to emotion or body awareness. You might not have that right now. What do I notice is observational. Anyone can notice. You can notice temperature. You can notice pressure. You can notice my hand is heavier than my forearm. You can notice the air on my face is cooler than the air under my shirt. You can notice to raise a point on my back that's touching the chair more than the rest of me. That counts. That is sensation. That is you starting to come back into your body from a safe angle. You don't need to call it peaceful. You don't need to call it comforting. You just need to prove to your system that being in your own body for 5 seconds is not immediately dangerous. That's the first step. You and your body don't have to be intimate yet. You're just reintroducing yourselves. And if you notice absolutely nothing at all, then you notice that. Right now, I can't access anything. I'm aware that I can't access anything. That is still contact. That is still honest. That is still a form of presence. The nervous system responds to honesty. It does not respond well to being bullied. Finally, to ease agitation. Some people try to slow down and instead feel restless, jumpy, irritated, almost angry at stillness. Stillness feels unsafe. That can come from a few different places. One possibility you learn that being relaxed is when bad things happen. So stillness feels like leaving the door unlocked. Another, you have so much pent-up sympathetic charge, fight-flight energy, sitting in your system that the second you stop distracting yourself, you can feel it buzzing under your skin. You're not calm underneath. You're wired underneath. Stillness just lets you hear the hum. If that's you, you do not have to start with stillness. Some people need to discharge a little before they can downshift. That doesn't mean grind harder. It means giving your body a short, contained outlet so that the pressure has somewhere to go. This can be as simple as by pushing both hands into a wall for 10 seconds, like you're trying to move it. Full body push. Jaw relaxed if possible. Exhale on effort. Grabbing the seat of your chair and pulling up like you're trying to lift yourself without actually leaving the chair. Feel your arms engage. Feel your back engage. Let your body feel its own strength without having to argue with anyone. Standing and shaking out your hands, your arms, your shoulders for 15 seconds, not violently. Just loosening, like you're flicking water off. What are you doing with things like that? You're telling your nervous system, that fight-flight charge in there, I see it. He'll give it somewhere safe to go. That doesn't involve an argument. an impulsive decision, a self-sabotage spiral, or picking a fight with someone I love. After a brief controlled release like that, stillness doesn't feel as itchy. The hum's a little lower. Now you can actually try a calming breath, or that little lotus one. Not terrible thing practice. You're not broken if stillness annoys you. You're just carrying charge no one taught you how to drain. This is how we stop labeling our own biology as personality flaws. You're not dramatic, you're dysregulated. You're not cold, you're protective. You're not lazy, you're depleted. You're not clingy, you're under-resourced. You're not difficult, you're overloaded and unheard. When you stop naming survival responses as character defects, your whole internal tone changes. Instead of "what's wrong with me?" you begin to ask, "What does my system need right now?" based on the state it's in. That shift right there, from shame to curiosity, is the doorway to actual change. Because shame freezes you, curiosity gives you options. This is where we start building what you could call emotional range. If you've spent years mostly living in two states, shut down or frantic, it can feel like those are your only choices. Either you're numb and detached, or you're overwhelmed and vibrating. Our work here is to help you install more gears, not just off and overdrive, but also idle, coast, steady pull, gentle focus, soft rest. Okay, enough to keep going without breaking. Emotional range is resilience. The more states you can access, the less any one state owns you. And no, you don't force new states by willpower. You build them through repetition. Tiny repetitions. You practice noticing okay-ness for one extra breath. You practice letting your shoulders drop 2%. You practice feeling support instead of pretending you don't need any. You practice releasing a little physical tension before you ask your body to be calm. You practice telling guilt, "I hear you," instead of letting it run the whole meeting. You practice letting numbness be a message, not a verdict. You practice staying with yourself when you're not performing. Each of those is a rep. Reps become wiring. Wiring becomes baseline. And baseline is what you feel without having to try. That's what we're moving toward. Not a life where you never get stressed. That's not real. Not a personality transplant. That's not necessary. We're moving toward a life where stress doesn't instantly own you. Numbness doesn't define you. And joy, quiet, regulated joy, is not something you have to argue yourself into. Now, here is where something interesting starts to happen. When you begin to build even a little safety inside your own system, your perception of the outside world changes. Things that felt like emergencies start to feel like situations. Things that felt like "if this goes badly, I will die" start to feel like "if this goes badly, I will be upset, but I will still exist." Things that felt non-negotiable start to feel optional. You start to see which dynamics in your life are actually intolerable and which ones are just familiar. That difference matters, because when everything feels like overload, you can't tell what needs to change. It's all loud. It's all urgent. It's all red alert. You can't make a clear boundary because there is no contrast. But when your baseline calms by even 5%, clarity sneaks in. You can finally tell, "Oh, this part of my life hurts me. This part actually supports me. This pattern drains me. This one helps." That clarity is dangerous to cycles that rely on you being overwhelmed. Clarity is what makes you stop apologizing for needing rest. Clarity is what makes you stop accepting crumbs and calling it love. Clarity is what makes you leave situations that feed off your constant self-abandonment. Clarity is what makes you say, "No, I'm not available to be treated like that anymore," and mean it. And that's where building nervous system safety stops being just self-care and becomes self-liberation. Once you can feel yourself, you can keep yourself. Once you can keep yourself, you become less controllable. Once you're less controllable, everything that depended on your silence starts shaking. Your nervous system healing is not just personal, it is structural. It changes the way you participate in relationships, in work, in family roles, in patterns you were born into. That's why it can feel scary. That's also why it's worth it. So now you've met the core pieces. We've talked about safe, good moments, and why they matter. We've talked about why your system might reject them, and why that doesn't mean you're failing. We've talked about guilt, fear, numbness, agitation, and how each one is logical, not shameful. We've talked about capacity and dignity, and how quiet self-worth grows from allowing yourself relief without evidence you've earned it. The next layer is this. How do you keep going when life is still loud? Because you don't live in a retreat center. You live in real life, with messages, bills, news, pressure, noise, people who need you, and patterns that are not magically going to disappear just because you took 3 slow breaths and released your shoulders. So, what we're going to explore now is how to build these practices into actual daily motion in a way that feels possible, repeatable, and honest, even inside stress. Let's sit inside real life now, because it's one thing to feel a soft moment while you're lying still, eyes closed, hearing someone tell you you're allowed to rest. It's another thing at 2:17 p.m. on a Wednesday when your phone won't stop buzzing and your brain feels like it's being chewed on from the inside. So let's talk about how this actually fits into a day that is not quiet. Here's the first rule. Regulation is something you weave in, not something you wait for. If you wait for perfect calm to practice calming your system, you'll almost never practice. Most people tell themselves, yeah, you'll take care of myself when things slow down. But for a lot of people, when things slow down is a fantasy time that never actually arrives. So instead of waiting for a break, we're going to start making micro breaks that are so small, your survival brain won't try to cancel them. This means we are not aiming for a 45-minute morning routine, a gratitude journal with a special pen, a 3-hour silent walk in a sunlit meadow, or anything else that would require you to become a different person with a different schedule and a different schedule and a different life. We're aiming for moments that are 5 seconds long. Genuinely, 5 seconds. Not 20 disguised as 5. Not, and then also I should stretch and hydrate and visualize. We're talking about one nervous system rep at a time, inside a life that's already demanding. It looks like this. You're already going to pick up your phone. That's not going to change. Before you respond, just notice jaw, shoulders, mouth, not fix, not relax. Just notice jaw's tight, shoulders are up, breath is shallow. That's it. Send the text. You're already going to stand up and walk to the kitchen or the bathroom or the hallway. While you're walking, without changing your pace, feel your feet hit the ground for 3 steps in a row. Left, right, left, that's it. You can go back in your head after that. You don't have to stay present for the whole walk. 3 steps counts. You're already going to open your mouth to say, yeah, no worries, it's fine, I can do it. Right before you say it, quietly ask yourself, is it actually fine? You don't even have to change your answer yet. You can still say, yes, we're just putting a truth check between the ask and the automatic fawn. That pause alone is training. These sound ridiculously small. They are supposed to. You are not trying to become a calm person. You are teaching your nervous system that multiple times a day, it is allowed to come back into contact with you. That's the work. Because right now, for a lot of people, the pattern looks like this. Go numb, override, perform, crash, self, judge, repeat. You don't check in with yourself until you're already past your limit. And by then, it's not a check in, it's a shutdown. We're moving the check in earlier. We're not preventing stress. We're preventing full system collapse. Another way to say it, we're building micro honesty. Micro honesty means you stop lying to yourself about how you are, not to be dramatic, not to spiral, just to register reality sooner. Yeah, I'm actually really tense right now. I did not like that. I'm already at 70%, and it's only 11 a.m. I'm pretending I'm okay, but I'm kind of not. That kind of honesty feels small in the moment, but it changes everything long term, because your nervous system calms when it feels accompanied. Stress alone is panic. Stress while accompanied is challenge. When you stay with yourself, even just narrating, this is a lot right now, your body reads that as someone is here with us in this, and that someone is you. Your system does not only react to workload, it reacts to aloneness inside workload. That's why 2 equally busy days can feel totally different. On one day, it's I've got me, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm inside myself. On the other day, it's I have disappeared and am running on fumes, and if one more thing happens, I will shatter. Same calendar, completely different nervous load. So that's piece one. Micro, honesty, micro. Check-ins, 5. Second, reps. Now let's add something else. Safe cues. Your nervous system is always scanning for threat or safety. Most of us are very practiced at scanning for threat. We can find threat in half-a-second tone change in someone's voice. Look on someone's face, pause in an email, shift in someone's breathing, noise in the hallway. That part is automatic. We are usually not as practiced at scanning for safety. Safety cues are anything in your current environment. Right now, that signals not danger. They are not everything is perfect. Just not. Danger. Warm mug in your hand. That's a safety cue. Stable chair under you. Safety cue. Soft fabric on your skin. Safety cue. Light on the wall being still, not flickering. Safety cue. Nobody shouting right now? Safety cue. Door closed? Safety cue. Your own exhale? Safety cue. None of those fix your life. That's not the point. The point is to feed your nervous system proof that not every single second of your existence is a crisis. If your body only ever registers threat, it will live in survival mode. If, in the middle of threat, it can also register some safety is present, even for one breath, it gains just a sliver of room. That sliver is huge. Because when your body is convinced you're in full emergency, the only tools it will offer you are emergency tools shut down. Lash out, run, freeze, please, dissociate, numb, explode, disappear. When your body can register we're under stress but we're not literally about to die this second, different tools unlock think, pause, choose, redirect, ask, step away. Hydrate, say not right now. Send a boundary text, walk outside for 30 seconds instead of slamming your laptop shut and ghosting everyone. That difference, emergency tools versus regulated tools, can be the difference between I survived today and I torched my life in a stress reaction I didn't actually want. So here's a practice you can layer in without telling anyone you're doing it a few times during the day. Quietly label one safety cue in your immediate reality. Literally just in your head warm mug or back supported, or room is quiet for this moment, or I'm breathing. That's it. No gratitude journal. No, I should be thankful. Others have it worse. None of that forced politeness. This is not performance gratitude. This is just tagging not. Danger. It works like this. Your survival brain is constantly feeding your body reasons to stay braced. You are going to start feeding it reasons it can drop 2% of that tension without dying. That's nervous system negotiation, not calm down. More like, hey, I see why you're tense. You're not wrong. Also, as of right now, we are physically safe in this chair. You can lower your shoulders a centimeter, not all the way. Your system will often accept that kind of deal. Direct orders. It resists. Gentle proof. It listens. Let's talk about boundaries for a second, because boundaries live here too. People talk about boundaries like they're these big, dramatic lines I will no longer tolerate. And then you imagine yourself doing a huge speech while music plays behind you, but most real boundaries are tiny shifts that happen quietly. Before nervous system work, a boundary sounds like, oh, I can't keep doing this, and then you keep doing this. After nervous system work, a boundary sounds like, hey, I'm not able to take that on today. Send in a calm text, and then you don't take it on. It looks boring from the outside. It feels revolutionary on the inside. But here's the important part. You can't set consistent boundaries from a dysregulated body. You can set explosive ultimatums from a dysregulated body. Sure, you can snap, you can rage, you can quit mid-call. You can burn a bridge at 1:12 a.m. and then stare at the ceiling like, oh no, but ongoing, non-dramatic, sustainable boundaries. No, not this time. I can't come. That doesn't work for me. I'm heading out now. I'm going to log off for the night. Let's reschedule. I hear you, but I can't fix that for you. Those require enough regulation that you can tolerate someone being mildly unhappy with you without immediately panicking and fixing their feeling. That's why we're doing all this body work. It's not just to feel relaxed. It's so that when you say no and someone sighs, you don't instantly abandon yourself to make their sigh go away. That moment, staying with yourself while someone else is not pleased, that's nervous system strength training. That's what all these reps are preparing you for. Because let's be honest, you know how to sacrifice yourself. You've been doing that for years. You don't need practice there. That neural pathway is paved and polished and beautifully maintained. You're learning how not to, and that means learning how to feel that tiny spike of, oh no, they're upset with me, and not sprint to make it stop. How do you train that without getting overwhelmed? Same answer as before: seconds, not hours. When someone sends a message that makes your stomach drop, instead of immediately answering with no, it's fine, I can stay late, they'll handle it. Don't worry. Pause for one inhale. Feel your feet, feel your hand on the phone. Feel that oh no as just sensation, not a verdict. That zing in your gut, that heat in your face, that little adrenaline punch, that's biology, not truth. Then answer. That single inhale is the wedge. That wedge is what creates the option to not abandon yourself. Again, boring from the outside, absolutely life-altering inside. Let's layer in one more piece here, the voice in your head. A lot of people think their stress comes from workload, and a lot of it does. But a huge part of your nervous system load is also coming from the way you talk to yourself while you're doing that workload. If your internal voice is basically, keep going, idiot, you're behind. What's wrong with you? Don't let them see you're tired. Get it together. Your body is going to stay in survival because you are, internally, treating you like a threat. Your nervous system cannot calm down if you are the one attacking it. Which is why a lot of relaxation techniques don't work for some people. Not because the breathing is wrong, because while they're doing the breathing, the self-talk is hostile. You can't say relax with your mouth and you're useless with your thoughts and expect your body to feel safe. So we're going to shift the tone, and we're going to do it in a way that doesn't feel fake. We're not jumping from you're pathetic to you are a radiant sun goddess. Your nervous system will not believe that. It will actually stress you more because it feels like lying. We're just going to move from attack to accompaniment instead of what's wrong with you. Try this as a lot. Instead of don't be weak, try of course you're tired. Instead of keep up, try I've got you. One thing at a time. Instead of stop being dramatic, try yeah. That hit hard breathe. You're not hyping yourself up. You're staying with yourself. That tone matters. Your nervous system is built to co-regulate. That means it calms down when it's with someone steady, kind, and present. When you become that presence for yourself, even internally, your stress response changes. Not because the situation is fixed, but because you are no longer alone in it. And this is where people sometimes ask, isn't that just self-soothing? Isn't that just like talking nice to yourself? And here's why that's not corny. If no one did that for you when you needed it, your body never got that signal of you're allowed to calm. You're allowed to come down now. You're not in danger anymore. So your system never learned how. You're not being cheesy. You're installing missing code. You're giving your nervous system an experience it didn't get when it should have. And that changes things in the present. Because once your body knows how to come down, you stop living in permanent brink. You stop needing full shutdown just to reset. You stop using self-destruction as your only off switch. You stop hitting those I can't do this anymore walls every 2 weeks. Instead, you start doing small, constant pressure releases all day long. That's regulation. That's what people mean when they talk about resilience. By the way, they don't mean push through anything and smile. That's suppression. That's collapse in slow motion. Resilience is I have ways to bring myself back while it's happening, so I don't lose myself to it. Now, I want to zoom out for a second and say something important. If you are struggling, it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're dramatic. It doesn't mean you're lazy or failing or broken or not built for this world. It usually means you've been operating at emergency levels for way too long without rest, without support, and without permission to stop. Burnout is not personality. Collapse is not destiny. Hopelessness is not proof that you're doomed. It's a sign that you've been running on backup generators for months or years and calling that normal. This work, noticing cues of safety, telling yourself the truth in small moments, discharging some of that pent up fight-flight pausing for one inhale before you abandon yourself. Letting in 2% of support. This work is how you stop living only on emergency power. It's not instant, it's not flashy. It doesn't fix you overnight, but it changes the slope. Instead of getting worse every month, you start getting 1% more resourced, then 3%. And over time, that gap becomes the difference between him barely hanging on and him still tired, but I can feel myself again. And feeling yourself again is the doorway. Because once you can feel yourself, you can protect yourself. And once you can protect yourself, you start making different choices. And once you start making different choices, quietly, consistently, your life, in slow motion, starts to become a place your nervous system doesn't have to treat like a war zone. So from here, we're going to move into something deeper. We've talked about micro, regulation, inside stress, 5-second check, ins, safety cues, pausing before self, abandonment, letting yourself sound like a decent human in your own head. Now we're going to start asking a bigger question. What actually changes when you start living from a regulated body? Not just for 5 seconds at a time, but as a baseline. Because that is where identity starts to shift. That's where patterns break. That's where loyalty to your own exhaustion begins to fall apart. And to get there, we're going to talk about worth. Worth is a nervous system state before it's an idea. People talk about self, worth like it's a belief you can repeat in the mirror until it sticks. I am enough. I deserve good things. And sometimes that helps. A little. But for most people who are deeply tired and deeply wired for survival, worth is not a sentence. It's the level of safety your body feels when you let yourself take up space. If taking up space feels dangerous, your body will not allow you to believe you are worthy. No matter how many affirmations you say. Not because you're broken, because your nervous system learned that shrinking kept you safe. If being quiet kept the house calm. If saying yes kept people from leaving. If being low maintenance got you love. If being impressive got you approval. If never needing anything got you peace, then your body did the math. It said, when I disappear, I survive. And it's been running that program ever since. So when you try to do something that contradicts that rule, when you rest instead of pushing, when you say no instead of absorbing, when you ask for help instead of pretending you're fine, your body doesn't experience that as a healthy choice. It experiences that as danger. That, I feel so guilty feeling. That this is selfish feeling. That I shouldn't need this feeling. Most of the time, that's not morality. That's not truth. That's withdrawal. Your nervous system is withdrawing from its old coping pattern. You are removing the behavior that used to keep you safe. And just like with any withdrawal, your body alarms. It demands the old behavior back. It will tell you stories to get you to cave. Don't rest. You're being lazy. Don't set a boundary. You'll lose them. Don't say what you feel. You'll ruin it. Don't stop overworking. You'll fall behind. Don't ask for care. They'll resent you. It sounds like logic. It isn't logic. It's craving. And here's the important twist that craving shows up right before a growth point. People think growth feels empowering. Most of the time, at first, growth feels like disloyalty. Disloyalty to your old role. Disloyalty to your coping. Disloyalty to your coping. Disloyalty to the version of you that carried everything with a straight face. You feel like you're betraying the you who survived for you. That's why it hurts. That's why it's emotional. That's why sometimes, weirdly, healing makes you cry more than breaking ever did. You're not just learning how to rest. You're grieving the years you didn't. You're not just learning how to say no. You're realizing how many times you swallowed yourself to keep the peace. You're not just learning how to soothe your nervous system. You're watching how long you've lived without soothing at all. This is why it feels so big. But this is also where neuroplasticity becomes more than a science word and turns into something you can feel happening in real time. Your brain is always forming associations for a long time. For you, the association may have been, if I overextend, I am safe, I am loved. And now you are teaching it a different pairing. If I come back into myself, I am safe. If I let myself exist, I am safe. That's not mindset. That's wiring. And the only way wiring changes is through lived, repeated experience, which is exactly what you've been doing in little ways. Those 5-second check-ins. That pause before collapsing yourself to make someone else comfortable. That one inhale before you agree to take on something you don't actually have capacity for. Those are not just coping tricks. Those are neural reps. Every time you stay with yourself for 1 second longer than you used to, you are physically training your system to pair. I stayed with. We did not die. That's huge, because right now, your body very sincerely predicts that if you do not self-abandon, something catastrophic will happen. Someone will reject you. Someone will explode. Love will be withdrawn. Stability will disappear. You will be exposed. When nothing catastrophic happens in that 1 second, you stayed with yourself, that prediction updates a microscopic amount. Not all the way, but a hair. And one hair of safety, repeated, becomes a thread, and threads become fabric. That's what worth feels like in the body. Worth is not standing in a mirror yelling, "I am powerful," with your fists clenched and your jaw tight. Worth is your nervous system slowly learning this sentence. I can stay connected to myself in this moment and nothing terrible is happening. That's it. That's the whole thing. Because once that wiring is in place, choices that felt impossible start to feel available. You don't have to hype yourself into bravery every single time. You start to act in self-respect without the panic spike. You don't have to rehearse the boundary 600 times. You just say, "I'm heading out now," and your voice doesn't shake. You don't have to convince yourself that you deserve to rest. You're just tired, so you sit down. You don't have to perform emotional stability for everyone else in the room. You can just say, "I'm having a hard day," and you don't instantly go cold from fear. That's self-worth in practice. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic empowerment with a swelling soundtrack. It's quiet behavioral permission. I am allowed to exist without earning it in this exact minute. That one sentence changes not just your thoughts, but your hormones, your muscle tone, your inflammation levels, your ability to digest, your impulse to shut down or explode, your capacity to listen, your ability to sleep like a human instead of like a guard dog. When your body is not braced against constant threat, it can finally step out of emergency mode. And when it steps out of emergency mode, it can finally register something most people secretly think they've aged out of: joy. Let's talk about joy. Not forced positivity, not fake optimism, not good vibes only while you internally scream. I mean literal joy, small, animal joy, warm sun on your skin, laughing in a way that doesn't feel performed. Taste, music safety, deep exhale joy. For a lot of people, joy doesn't feel safe. If your past taught you that good moments were always followed by something painful, then joy in your body is going to feel like standing on a trapdoor. So even when something genuinely good is happening, you can't settle into it. You're bracing for the drop. You're already scanning for where it will go wrong, who will ruin it, what will be taken from you, and so your system never gets to associate pleasure with safety. Pleasure is paired with risk, warmth is paired with loss, softness is paired with exposure. If joy equals danger, of course you can't relax. Of course you can't just enjoy it. Of course you're tense even on vacation. That's not you being ungrateful. That's conditioning. But here's the encouraging part. The same way you can teach your nervous system, "I can say no and survive," you can also teach it, "I can feel something good and survive." You do it the same way in seconds, not hours. You don't have to plan a perfect day to rewire for joy. You don't have to go be happy. You don't have to chase peak experiences. In fact, chasing big peak experiences when your body still believes joy is unsafe will usually backfire. It's too much too fast. Your system will spike. Then crash. Instead, we're going to do with joy what we did with safety cues. You notice one tiny thing that feels even 2% good, and you'll let yourself stay with it for one inhale longer than usual, without apologizing for it internally. That's the rep. Tea that's actually the temperature you like. Stay with it for one inhale and tell your body, "This is allowed." Warm water on your back in the shower. Stay with it for one inhale and tell your body, this is allowed. Clean blanket, fresh shirt, a song that makes your face soften for half a second, a text from someone who speaks to you, that moment after laughing where your body feels loose for just a breath and your shoulders aren't up around your ears. Stay with it for one inhale and tell your body, this is allowed. That this is allowed part matters, because otherwise your brain will immediately try to steal it. It'll jump in with, don't get used to this, or you haven't earned this, or this won't last. That's just old protection trying to keep you prepared. But you're not 12 anymore. You're not trapped in that room anymore. You're allowed to feel okay for one inhale without rehearsing catastrophe. That's how we rewire joy. Not by pretending everything's fine, by letting something good land in the body without immediately canceling it. This is not spiritual bypass. This is nervous system expansion. You are increasing your window of tolerance for both discomfort and comfort. Most people think regulation means I tolerate discomfort better. That's only half of it. Real regulation also means I tolerate comfort better. I can experience something soothing without flinching away from it. I can feel warmth without panic. I can feel supported without shame. I can let myself soften without thinking soft equals weak equals unsafe. When you can tolerate comfort, your baseline changes. Your brain stops believing that constant tension is the only way to survive. Your muscles stop bracing by default. Your jaw isn't clenched all day. Your breath comes back online. Your sleep deepens, not because you tried to sleep better, but because your body finally accepts that off is an option. And when off becomes an option, you start to heal in the background. That's what healing actually looks like. By the way, it's not you sitting there actively fixing yourself 24 hours a day. It's what happens when your body is finally safe enough to run repair processes without your conscious mind micromanaging them. We are so used to grinding through everything on manual override that we forget the body knows how to restore itself when it isn't being chased. You give it even a thin slice of safety, and it immediately starts patching, sorting, metabolizing, clearing, rewiring, cleaning up old adrenaline loops, integrating old alarms. You don't have to force that. You just have to stop interrupting it every 5 minutes with "we're not safe." Tense up. Stay ready. That's why these tiny practices matter. They're not cute wellness habits. They're not aesthetic rituals. They're literal neurological permissions that tell your body, you can stand down for one breath. I will watch the door. And once your body believes that, you get yourself back. And once you get yourself back, you get access to choice. And once you get access to choice, patterns that felt permanent start cracking. The overgiving, the people-pleasing, the explosive rage you don't actually want, that only shows up because you swallowed everything for weeks. The late-night zelf, destruction you hate and keep doing because it's the only time you feel like you belong to yourself. All of that starts to loosen, not because you guilted yourself out of it, because you don't need it as much. The nervous system always chooses the strategy that feels safest. When you build new safety, it naturally retires some of the old ones. That is how you become different, without forcing yourself to be different. So now we're here. You've seen how micro-regulation keeps you from abandoning yourself in real time. You've seen how self-worth is not an affirmation, but a body state. You've seen how guilt during rest is not proof you're doing something wrong, but proof you're entering new wiring. You've seen how joy has to be relearned as safe, one inhale at a time. From here, we're going to go somewhere even deeper. We're going to talk about identity. Because once you build a nervous system that believes you're allowed to exist, a quiet question starts to surface, sometimes for the first time in years. If I'm not just the one who copes, who am I? That question can feel unsettling at first, almost wrong, because for a lot of people, the role they played in order to be loved became their identity. If you were the reliable one, then reliability wasn't just a behavior, it was you. If you were the calm one, then calm wasn't just a state. It was you. If you were the strong one, then holding everything without flinching wasn't just survival. It was you. If you were the fixer, the caretaker, the golden child, the quiet one, the problem, solver, the no needs friend, the always available partner. It stopped being a mask and became the whole face. People praised you for that role. They depended on you for that role. Some people only loved you in that role, which means that underneath "I'm helpful," there is sometimes a quieter sentence that almost never gets said out loud. If I stop being helpful, I disappear. This is why healing can feel like loss. You're not just letting go of stress patterns. You're letting go of identities that kept you attached to other people. And the fear is very real. If I stop playing that role, will they leave? Let's be honest. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes people who loved you for the version of you that served them will not want the version of you that also serves you. That's not drama. That's data. When you stop bleeding yourself out to keep the room comfortable, the people who are warmed by your body heat will complain first. Not because you're doing something cruel, because for the first time, they are feeling the cold you've been carrying for years. This is where a lot of people panic and snap back into the old role. Not because they want to, because rejection, even mild disappointment, feels like physical threat in a nervous system that's still rewiring. And this is where you need to understand what's actually happening, so you don't mistake growth for harm. When you set a limit and someone says you've changed, your body hears you're unsafe. But here is the truth underneath it. You've changed is sometimes just code for you're not self. Abandoning in a way that benefits me anymore, that's not cruelty. That's not selfishness. That's a nervous system boundary forming. And boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are instructions for how to stay connected without dissolving. Most people think boundaries are about pushing people away. That's not what a healthy boundary is. A healthy boundary says, I want to keep being in connection with you. And the way we've been doing it has been costing me more than I can actually afford. If we're going to keep this going, we need to do it in a way that doesn't keep injuring me. This is generous. This is relational. This is honest. This is care. But if you've spent most of your life being the one who absorbs instead of the one who names your limit, saying even a tiny version of that can feel like holding a live wire, your hands shake, your stomach drops, your tongue goes dry, your heart rate spikes, your muscles prep for impact, that isn't weakness. That's your body preparing for the backlash it has learned to predict. So let's slow that moment down. When you're right on the edge of saying something true, I can't do that tonight. That hurt. I need you to talk to me with respect. I can't be the only one holding this. Your nervous system launches into alarm. It thinks you're walking into danger. And in a sense, you are. You're about to step out of your old identity. You're about to test whether connection is possible without sacrificing yourself. That's huge. So, instead of expecting yourself to be calm in that moment, expect yourself to feel flooded. Assume you will feel wrong, rude, dramatic, selfish, too much, ungrateful, unloving, unstable, disloyal, not like yourself. Assume your body will try to drag you back to silence. Assume guilt will come up like a wave. Assume the urge to apologize for even having a need will be intense. None of that means you are doing the wrong thing. It means you are crossing a line your nervous system never thought you were allowed to cross. That is neuroplasticity in real time. That is selfhood coming back online. This is also where people start to feel grief, sometimes very heavy grief, because when you stop being only what other people wanted from you, a quiet, almost childlike thought can surface if I'm not useful. Will anyone choose me? That's one of the rawest questions a body can hold. And if that question lives in you, I want you to hear this with your whole nervous system. Not just your thinking brain. You were not loved. The performance was loved. That is hard, but it's clean. And a clean truth, even when it hurts, is easier to metabolize than a foggy lie that keeps you trapped. Because once you see, they loved what I did, not who I was, you can also see that was never going to feed me. You can stop waiting for a kind of safety that does not exist there. You can stop bargaining with yourself to keep earning crumbs. You can stop telling yourself, if I just carry a little more, maybe they'll finally see me. Number, they saw you the whole time. They just liked you better when you were quiet. And that's not your future. Here's the part that often gets skipped, and it shouldn't. Identity healing isn't just about walking away from misaligned dynamics. It's about facing the blank space that comes after. Because you've spent years, maybe decades, being the one who can handle it. Who are you if you're not holding it all? Most people answer that question too fast. They start building a new identity in the same old nervous system, which means it's just a shinier version of the same pattern. I'm not the overgiver anymore. Now I'm the hyper, independent lone wolf who needs nothing from anyone and relies on no one and never feels anything. That isn't freedom. That's just self-abandonment with better branding. You don't heal by swinging from "I'll collapse myself so you don't leave" to "I don't need anybody ever again." Both of those are fear postures. Both of those say connection is dangerous, and connection is not dangerous. Unsafe connection is dangerous. Safe connection, where you exist and I exist and neither of us has to disappear, is actually medicine for the nervous system. It's regulating. It's stabilizing. It's deeply corrective. Being witnessed without being used is one of the most powerful rewires a human body can ever experience. But to receive that, you have to stay present long enough to actually feel it, which means this is the next edge, letting yourself be supported without shrinking. If you're used to being the stable one, you probably feel physically uncomfortable letting someone else show up for you. You might downplay. You might make a joke. You might instantly flip roles and start comforting them for feeling bad that you're not okay. You might feel this weird urge to get small, to emotionally kneel, so you don't feel too big for needing care. Slow that down. That urge to shrink is not humility. That urge to shrink is a survival reflex. Your body thinks visibility equals risk. Your body thinks if they see how much I carry, they'll either leave because it's too much, or they'll take control and I'll lose myself. So, even in moments of support, you tense. That tension blocks the rewire, because your body can only update its safety map from what it actually experiences, not what it intellectually understands. If, in the moment someone offers care, you reject it internally, tell yourself you're being dramatic, rush to smooth it over, laugh it off, or flip the attention back to them. Your body never gets to log, "I was seen, and it was safe." All it logs is, "We almost got exposed." We shut it down in time, crisis averted. So here is the practice when someone shows you care. Real care, grounded care, not controlling care. Let it touch you for one breath longer than feels comfortable. Not 5 minutes, not an hour. Long cry, one breath. When they say, "Hey, that sounds like a lot. Do you want to talk about it?" Just notice what happens in your body. Do your shoulders tense? Does your throat close? Do you feel the urge to say "I'm fine" even if you're absolutely not fine? Don't force yourself to spill everything. That's not the point. The point is this: notice the defensive closure, and then see if you can open that closure by 5%, just for one inhale. Something simple, like, "Yeah, it's been heavy today." That's it. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to make it palatable. You just let yourself be a person who is having a hard day in front of someone who can handle hearing that. That single sentence is not small. That sentence is a nervous system event. Because in that moment, your brain is watching to see what happens. Will they shame you? Will they go cold? Will they punish you? Or will nothing bad happen? If nothing bad happens, your brain quietly updates. We keep coming back to that because that's the core mechanism under all of this. Neuroplasticity is repetition plus safety. Not repetition plus force. Not repetition plus fake confidence. Repetition plus safety. Safety experienced, not safety imagined. This is how identity shifts from performance to presence. Presence sounds simple, but presence is actually a very advanced state for a nervous system that's used to scanning, appeasing, managing, performing, adapting. Presence means I am actually here, in my own body, during my own life, not just running scripts. Presence means I can feel what I feel without immediately editing it to be more convenient for you. Presence means I can locate myself, not just you. That last one is important. A lot of people can track other people's feelings instantly. You walk into a room, and in 5 seconds, you know who's irritated, who's tense, who's anxious, who's about to break, who needs soothing. You've been doing that since you were young. It's how you stayed ahead of danger. But ask those same people, what are you feeling right now? And they freeze. They genuinely don't know. Not because they're numb, though sometimes they are numb and don't realize it, but because scanning everyone else replaced self-awareness. You can't track you and them at full capacity at the same time while in threat mode. Your body picked them. So presence, for you, will often begin with learning how to sense yourself in real time, not conceptually. Somatically, where am I tight right now? Do I feel pulled forward or pulled back in this conversation? Do I feel like embracing or leaning? Is my stomach calm or clenched? Is my jaw soft or locked? Do I feel like I have choice right now? Or do I feel cornered? Those are not fluffy check-ins. That is you installing internal reference points. Because without internal reference points, you can't tell when you're overriding yourself. You only discover it later when you crash or rage or numb out. With internal reference points, you can catch it while it's happening. You can notice, oh, I just left my body to make them comfortable as it's happening. And in that moment, you have a shot. Not a guarantee, but a shot. At choosing differently, that moment is where self-trust is born. Self-trust does not come from promising yourself you'll overhaul your whole life overnight. Self-trust comes from giving yourself proof in micro moments that you will not abandon yourself instantly and automatically every single time. I noticed I left. I came back for me. That's self-trust. And every time you do that, even if you wobble, even if you still end up doing the thing for them anyway, but you noticed, that counts. That's a rep. That's a new neural path. The old path says I don't matter. Keep them calm. The new path says I exist here. And this is where identity stops being a mask and starts becoming a home. Because the goal is not to become the healed version of you and then hold that pose forever. The goal is to become someone you can live inside, someone you can return to, someone you don't abandon on contact, someone you actually know. And once you can feel yourself not as a concept, but as a place, something else becomes available in a way it maybe never has before desire. Not the version of desire that's filtered through other people's expectations, not what would make them proud of me, or what would make me look impressive, or what would make them stay, or what would make me safe. Your desire. What actually feels nourishing, what actually feels alive, what your body moves toward when it's not negotiating for survival. That is the next layer. That is where we're going. Desire is often the first thing to shut down in a survival-based nervous system. Not because you're weak, or disinterested, or unmotivated, but because wanting something you might not get can feel dangerous. If you grew up in an environment where disappointment wasn't just oh well, but more like pain, your body learned very quickly that wanting is expensive. Wanting made you visible. Wanting made you hopeful. Wanting set you up to get dropped. And being dropped didn't just sting. It felt like the ground vanished. So you adapted. You stopped wanting loudly. Then you stopped wanting publicly. Then you stopped wanting consciously, and you told yourself you were low maintenance. You told yourself I'm easy, I'm chill. I don't need much. That's not true, by the way. You need a lot. You've always needed a lot. All humans do. You just built a personality that could function while starving. When people finally start healing, this is one of the scariest doors to open, letting desire wake back up. Because if it wakes up, you'll feel the gap between the life you've been tolerating and the life you actually want. That gap can feel like grief. That gap can feel like anger. That gap can feel like, how did I let it get like this? That gap can feel like I lost years. So some part of you tries to keep desire sedated because desire creates pressure. Desire makes you look around and whisper, oh, I've been surviving, not living. And that realization is beautiful, but it is also a rupture. So let's come to it gently. When I say desire, I'm not talking about some big, dramatic, quit your job, move across the world, reinvent your whole identity overnight impulse. That's not desire. That's escape fantasy wearing desire as a costume. It's the nervous system going, "Please get me out of this now," because it's so done and so fried and so tired of holding an unbearable shape. The desire we're talking about here is quieter. It's smaller and truer. It lives in the body. I like mornings where no one talks to me for the first 30 minutes. I feel calmer with dimmer light. I am better when I'm not rushing. I feel steady when my space is not chaotic. I'm actually really creative, but only when I'm not in constant fight or flight. I miss the version of me that had curiosity. I want softness. I want more quiet. I want to not be so tense all the time. I want to feel chosen. I want to feel like I'm allowed to take up time. Those are not luxuries. Those are not extras. Those are not rewards. Those are not rewards. Those are nutritional needs. And the nervous system does not rewire well in starvation. So much of healing gets framed like a mental toughness challenge. Push through. Fix yourself. Optimize. Rewrite your mindset. Force better habits. Hustle to become your best self. Upgrade your discipline. It all sounds intense and impressive. But what that really is, most of the time, is more self. Abandonment dressed up as self-improvement. You don't heal a system that's been overworked by overworking it better. You heal a system that's been overworked by giving it conditions where it's finally allowed to downshift without being punished. Let me say that again, because your brain might try to slide past it. You are not lazy for needing rest. You are injured from having to perform past your limits for too long. The version of you that people called so strong was running on emergency override. The version of you that people called so resilient was bracing constantly. The version of you that people said could handle anything was not actually okay. Rest is not a break from the work. Rest is part of the work. Rest is the signal to your nervous system that threat is not endless, because here is what your body has been tracking without you, realizing it. Is there any point in dropping my shoulders? Or do I have to stay ready forever? If your body believes the answer is forever, it will not let you soften. Not fully. Even sleep won't be deep. Even downtime won't feel safe. You'll technically be off, but you won't feel off. You'll be scrolling, numbing, hovering, half present, half guarded. That is not rest. That's suspended freeze. That's your system saying, we're lying down, but we are not off duty. And you might be so used to that state that you call it calm. It's not calm. It's exhaustion that has gone quiet. Real calm feels different. Real calm is weight leaving your body. Real calm is the jaw unclenching on its own. Real calm is no performance. Real calm is the absence of managing. If you can't remember the last time you felt that, it does not mean you're broken. It means your nervous system has not had enough proof that it's allowed. This is why we don't start rewiring by forcing ourselves to think positive. We start rewiring by looking for 10-second windows of actual safety and letting the body notice them. That's it. That's the entry point. Because your system does not heal in theory, it heals in evidence. Right now, in this exact breath, am I under attack? Right now, in this exact breath, is anyone asking me to fix them? Right now, in this exact breath, is anyone yelling at me? Right now, in this exact breath, am I being abandoned? Right now, in this exact breath, is something actually on fire, or am I rehearsing possible fires? If the answer, in that one breath, is no, not right now, you have located a pocket. That pocket is where you feed your nervous system a new message. Not all moments are threat moments. That message is unbelievably important, because when you've lived in survival mode, your brain runs a prediction model that says, if we relax, we die. Which is why, when life eases up for a second, people with long-term stress often feel more anxious, not less. Stillness feels wrong. Quiet feels suspicious. Slowness feels like waiting to get hit. You're not addicted to chaos. You're adapted to vigilance. Those are not the same thing. Adapted vigilance says, I don't like chaos, but I know how to operate inside it. Calm scares me because I don't know the rules there yet. And that means calm has to be learned like a language, slowly, repetitively, with patience for how foreign it feels at first. This is also why you can't shame yourself into healing. Shame does not create safety. Shame creates collapse. And collapse is not regulation. Collapse is your body saying, I can't run or fight anymore, so it'll go dim and hope the threat passes. That's not peace. That's emergency shutdown. If you've been in shutdown, you know how it feels. You're not even crying. You're just gone. You can't start anything. You can't care. People think you're calm because you're quiet, but inside you're underwater, and the surface is way above you. And maybe you're good at functioning from down there. You can still go to work. You can still give responses that sound normal. You can still nod and say, yeah, I'm fine. You can still meet deadlines. You can still be there for people. You can still be perceived as reliable. That doesn't mean you're okay. That means you're in fawn freeze. He'll stay agreeable, so you don't push me, and he'll stay numb so I don't feel myself drowning. If that's where you've been, of course desire feels far away. Desire can't breathe underwater, so step one is not what do I want from life. Step one is can I safely surface for air? And surfacing is not dramatic. Surfacing can be literally, I'm going to sit on the edge of my bed, put my feet on the floor, feel gravity holding me, and take 2 slow breaths without performing any emotion for anyone. That counts. That absolutely counts. You are teaching your body we are allowed to exist without producing. That's not laziness. That is Ray, coding the pairing between my worth and my output. If you don't break that pairing, you can't heal. You'll just become high, functioning in a slightly different costume. Here's the part almost no one says out loud: healing is going to make you less convenient. You will answer slower. You will agree less. You will say, I can't more. You will tell the truth sooner. You will stop cushioning other people from the reality of how their behavior affects you. You will stop solving everyone else's discomfort before they even feel it. You will let silences happen. This feels like rebellion at first. It's not rebellion. It's regulation. It's you letting your nervous system stop sprinting in circles around other people's emotions. And yes, some people will not like that. Some people are very used to you anticipating their needs before they speak. Some people are very used to never having to sit in their own discomfort because you remove it for them. Some people are very used to you being emotionally soundproof. They can unload anything, and you never reflect anything back. When you stop doing that, those people will call you cold, distant, selfish, not like you used to be, mean, dismissive. They'll say, wow, you've changed. And your body will hear, I'm in danger of losing connection. In that moment, you are going to feel a reflex to rush in and fix their perception. Apologize for having needs, soften your boundary, make them comfortable again, so they don't pull away. Pause, because here's where you choose. Do you want to be understood by them more than you want to be well inside yourself, or not? This is the doorway you keep walking through, again and again. Every time you grow, every major layer of healing will ask you, do I abandon me to keep this bond, or do I risk this bond to stay with me? That is not an easy question. That is not a one-time question. That is an every layer of your life question, and there is no pretending otherwise. This is why you need self-trust, because sometimes you are going to choose you, and they are going to choose distance. And if you don't have you, that loss will swallow you. But if you do have you, if you have even the beginning of I can sit with myself, I can feel what I feel, I can anchor in my own body, I can take care of myself emotionally without instantly numbing out or begging someone to rescue me, then that loss will still hurt, but it will not erase you. That's the difference before. Loss didn't just hurt. Loss felt like dying, because connection was the thing keeping you regulated. You outsourced regulation to being needed. Now, you're slowly internalizing regulation. You're slowly learning. I can downshift my own state. I can bring myself out of panic. I can soothe myself without bargaining away pieces of me. And when you can do that even a little, not perfectly, just a little, suddenly you're not negotiating your entire identity just to keep somebody close. You're relating as an equal nervous system, not a life support machine. And that's where real intimacy starts. By the way, not in the performance version of you, not in the please, don't leave version of you, not in the I'm fine. Don't worry about me, I can take it version of you. Intimacy begins when you show up as a regulated. Enough you, not a perfect you. Just a present you. A you who can say, That actually stung, without collapsing, without disappearing. A you who can say, I care about you, and am not available for this tone, without shaking apart. That's bonding. That's adult connection. That's nervous. System to nervous. System honesty. And let's be very clear, if someone cannot tolerate that level of you, ness without punishing you, that's not compatibility. That's dependency on yourself. Erasure, you can mourn them. You do not have to shift for them. Now, let's circle back to something important, anger. Because for a lot of people, anger is the emotion that tries to come back online next, and it scares them. Especially if they were taught that anger equals danger, anger equals harm. Anger equals you're just like insert person who scared you growing up. So they try to skip anger and go straight to peace. You can't. Not honestly. Anger is part of thaw. When you stop numbing, you don't wake up serene. You wake up mad. Mad at what you tolerated. Mad at what was done to you. Mad at the ways you were used. Mad at the years you didn't get to be soft. Mad at the standard you met for everyone else that nobody met for you. Mad at yourself for not leaving sooner. Even though, at the time, leaving didn't feel like an option. Please hear this: anger and healing is not proof you're broken. It's proof you're waking up. Anger is your body saying, we didn't deserve that. That is sacred. That is boundary energy. That is the beginning of self-protection that isn't just survival panic, but self-respect. You don't have to swing that anger like a weapon. You don't have to scorch the earth. You don't have to scream and break things to honor it. Sometimes honoring anger is as simple as letting yourself admit that was not okay without immediately following it with, but it's fine, I'm fine. It wasn't that bad. They were doing their best. I shouldn't make a big deal. Let there be one clean sentence. It wasn't okay. That sentence anchors you to reality. Because minimizing is another way you've been gaslighting yourself to stay in rooms you had already outgrown. You are allowed to tell the truth about how it felt. You are allowed to tell the truth about what it cost. You are allowed to tell the truth about how tired you are. Because tired isn't weakness. Tired is information. Tired is your body saying, we've carried this long enough. If we keep carrying it like this, we will disappear inside it. And you're not here to disappear. You're here to come back. Come back into your body. Come back into your timing. Come back into your desire. Come back into your anger that protects you. Come back into your rest that restores you. Come back into a nervous system that believes you when you say, this is too much. That is what this work is doing. Not turning you into some flawless, unbothered, never triggered, always glowing fantasy version of yourself, but letting you live as someone you don't have to leave. And here is something you might not have heard in all the self. Help noise healing is not you becoming better. Healing is you becoming honest. Honest with your limits. Honest with your rhythms. Honest with what drains you in a way that feels like leaking. Honest with what actually nourishes you instead of what's supposed to. And honesty sounds simple, but pay attention to how fast your body tightens. When I say this next sentence, you're allowed to disappoint people. Feel what your stomach just did. Feel what your shoulders just did. Feel that automatic clench. Because I'm not allowed to be a disappointment is one of the deepest survival contracts most people are still carrying around, even as adults. Somewhere along the way, you learned that safety was performance-based. If I'm pleasant, I'm safe. If I'm useful, I'm safe. If I'm never a burden, I'm safe. If I'm always available, I'm safe. If I'm low, need, I'm safe. If I'm impressive, I'm safe. If I'm fine with anything, I'm safe. It wasn't random. Your nervous system mapped it. It watched what got you connection and what cost you connection, and it adjusted. Fast, quietly, completely. That's what a nervous system does. It learns the rules of the environment and rewires you to survive under those rules. So if the rule in your early world, family, friends, school relationships was love is conditional, then your body built you into someone who could meet those conditions, which means now, as an adult, every time you don't meet a condition, your whole body reacts like you're in danger, even if what actually happened is tiny and human. You take 20 minutes to respond to a message, and your body acts like you've abandoned someone to die. You say, "I can't tonight," and your body acts like you've committed betrayal. You ask for clarity, and your body acts like you've started a war. You slow down, and your body acts like you've gone missing. You rest, and your body acts like you're failing at life. That's not logic. That's wiring. And you cannot argue wiring into behaving differently. You have to rewire it. Which is why we do this work in the body, not only in the mind. The mind will say, "I know I'm allowed to rest," while the body is bracing like, "If you lie down, we lose everything." You can hear yourself saying, "I deserve peace." But your breath is still shallow, and your jaw is still locked, and your shoulders are still up by your ears like you're waiting to get hit. That's your body telling you we don't believe you yet. That sounds harsh, but it's actually hopeful, because if it's wiring, it can be rewired, and that's where practice comes in. Rewiring doesn't start by forcing yourself into huge acts of self-prioritization that will feel like jumping straight into fire. Your body will rebel, panic, shut you down, yank you back into old patterns just to get you out of that intensity. Rewiring begins with tolerable acts of self-honesty, tiny, boring, repeatable truths. I'm actually tired. I'm actually overwhelmed. I actually don't like this tone. I actually need 10 minutes. I actually don't want to talk right now. I actually felt hurt by that. I actually don't have capacity, even though part of me wants to have capacity, so you won't be mad at me. Most people swallow those sentences before they ever reach the mouth. They delete them. They erase themselves mid-feeling. You've done that, right? You feel the "I can't" rising in you, and you immediately cover it with "No, it's fine. I can do it. Don't worry." That moment, right there, is where the wiring holds. That is where the loop closes. That is where you abandon yourself to stabilize the moment. So the first rewire is not about fixing your whole life. It's about letting one of those sentences stay real for 10 extra seconds before you erase it. Not even saying it out loud yet, just letting yourself hear it inside without instantly overriding it. Because here is the truth: you are so fast at self-erasure that you don't even give your own needs a full second of airtime before you smother them. And you've been praised for that. You've been celebrated for how strong and selfless and understanding and chill and mature you are. You've been rewarded for disappearing. That praise is dangerous. That praise sounds like love, but what it really says is you're easiest to be around when you abandon yourself for me. No wonder anger is coming back. No wonder grief is coming back. No wonder you're tired in a way that sleep does not fix. Let's talk about that tired. Therese, regular tired. The kind that means I worked hard, I need rest. Then Therese, nervous system tired. The kind that means I have been in threat physiology for so long that it feels like my soul is frayed. That's the tired where you wake up and you're already done. That's the tired where even simple tasks feel like wading through glue. That's the tired where every ask feels like an attack. That's the tired where your brain won't hold a thought, your motivation is gone, and even pleasure feels like work. That's not laziness. That's not falling off. That's burnout at a survival level. Unfair thing. A lot of people who are in that level of burnout are still externally functioning. They're still answering emails. They're still showing up to work. They're still parenting. They're still being emotionally available. They're still making sure everyone else is okay. From the outside, it looks like you're doing great. On the inside, it feels like I am collapsing quietly, and no one can tell. Of course, no one can tell. You engineered it that way. You trained yourself to hold the mask no matter what. So no one knows when you're drowning until you're already at the bottom. That's why one of the most radical acts in your healing is this: letting other people see you're not okay before you hit the bottom. That sounds simple in theory. In practice, it can feel almost impossible, because letting someone see not okay means letting yourself be witnessed in need. And if your attachment patterns are built on being the reliable one, the soothing one, the stable one, the one who never needs, then being witnessed in need doesn't just feel embarrassing. It feels like you're risking abandonment. Will you still want me if I'm not useful? Will you still respect me if I'm not composed? Will you still love me if I'm visibly in pain instead of quietly holding yours? Those questions are not dramatic, they are real. They're in your body whether you say them or not. And to be fully honest with you, not everyone in your current life can handle the answer, being yes. That hurts, but it's important because some connections in your life are built on an unspoken agreement. I need you to be okay so I don't have to be. When you stop playing that role, that connection will shake. That's not you being toxic. That's the agreement being exposed. But here is the hopeful part, and I want you to really take this in. There are people, and you may not have met all of them yet, who actually find closeness and honesty, not in your performance. People who relax more when you say, "I'm struggling," because now they know they're allowed to be honest too. People who feel safer with you when you're real, not when you're perfect. People who don't need you to be unbreakable to feel secure with you. People who don't secretly resent you for having needs. People who don't punish you for being human. Those people exist, and when you meet them, your nervous system is going to glitch, because part of you won't trust it. Part of you has only known care that costs you, care that comes with a tab, care that feels like debt, care that is actually control-wearing softness. So when someone just sits with you and doesn't try to guilt you, fix you, rush you, or make it about them, your body won't know what to do. It might even feel wrong at first. It might feel like, do you not care? Are you not going to tell me what I should do? Are you not going to be disappointed in me? They're not. They're regulating with you, not managing you. That's healthy connection. Healthy connection doesn't mean you never stress me, and I never stress you. Healthy connection means we can stay present with each other's humanness without making it unsafe. You haven't had enough of that. That's not your fault, but it is your work now, because your nervous system heals through co-regulation. Yes, you can self-soothe. Yes, you can ground yourself. Yes, you can ground yourself. Yes, you can learn to downshift your own state. But the nervous system didn't evolve in isolation. It learned safety in relationship. So part of your healing is absolutely going to involve letting yourself experience steady, respectful nervous systems and letting your body learn. Oh, this is also possible. And that is where the real rewiring happens. Not in the quote you saved. Not in the plan you made at 2 a.m. to reinvent your whole life tomorrow. Not in the promise you make yourself after a breakdown that starting Monday you'll become a new person. Rewiring lives in your daily micro. Allowances. I'm allowed to tell the truth in this moment. I'm allowed to not fix this for you right now. I'm allowed to say I don't have capacity. I'm allowed to not answer instantly. I'm allowed to pause. I'm allowed to need. Let that be uncomfortable. Let it shake. Let your heart race. Let your brain scream that you're going to lose everything. You're not going to lose everything. You're going to lose the version of connection that requires you to disappear. That's different. And under that loss, something really beautiful starts to happen. You start to hear yourself. Not the survival script, not the apology instinct, not the auto. Yes, not the don't worry about me. I'm good. You, your voice, the one under the performance. At first, it'll be faint. You'll catch it in flashes. I actually want to slow down. I actually don't like how this feels. I actually don't enjoy being treated like a backup plan. I actually need someone who shows up for me. Before. That voice is not dramatic. That voice is not selfish. That voice is you being alive in your own life again. And that is the point. You being alive in your own life again. That's where everything actually begins. Because once that voice is awake, you can't go fully back to sleep on yourself. You can try. You can numb it, overwork it, drown it in productivity, smother it with its fine. You can keep pretending you're okay because it keeps the peace. You can keep saying yes because yes is easier in the moment. You can keep playing sturdy because sturdy is the version of you everyone is most comfortable with. But you will feel the drag. You'll feel the mismatch in your bones. You'll notice that certain conversations leave you buzzing and nauseous instead of connected. You'll notice that certain people only call you when they need something reset, repaired, or regulated. You'll notice that certain dynamics only feel warm when you're useful and suddenly go cold when you're not. You'll notice how often you are there for and how rarely you are sat with. That is not you becoming bitter. That is you finally having data. And I want you to really let that sink in the moment you start listening to yourself. What you call sensitivity is actually clarity. You're not suddenly too sensitive. You're suddenly not numb. You're suddenly registering the tension in your shoulders when someone jokes about you in a way that's not actually kind. You're suddenly registering the pit in your stomach when someone says, "You're not mad." Right? Instead of asking, "Are you okay?" You're suddenly registering that you've been the emotional shock absorber in a dynamic for years. Of course, that feels intense. Of course, it feels like too much. You're feeling things you previously sedated in order to function. And this is where a lot of people get scared and pull back from healing. Because here's what happens: the first layer of healing doesn't feel like relief. The first layer of healing can feel worse. Not because you're breaking, because you've stopped dissociating from what's already been hurting you. When you go numb, you can stay in situations that are slowly eroding you without fully noticing. When you come back into your body, you notice the erosion. That hurts. It's supposed to pain as information. Pain is this is costing me. Pain is this is costing me. Pain is I cannot keep doing this forever and still be myself. So please, don't mistake awareness for damage. Awareness is not the problem. Awareness is the alarm. And yes, awareness can be loud. Loud enough to make you want to mute it and go back to autopilot. Loud enough to make you say, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I'm dramatic. Maybe I'm the problem. Listen to me, the voice saying, maybe I'm the problem, is usually the part of you that is trying to keep unsafe patterns safe. Because if it's you, if you're the problem, then there is nothing you have to change around you. You don't have to set a boundary. You don't have to risk disappointing anybody. You don't have to let anyone be upset with you. You don't have to lose access to comfort, routine, familiarity, history. If it's all you, you get to keep everyone else. That's why it's my fault can actually feel calming. But long term, that lie is poison. Because every time you take the blame just to keep the peace, you teach your nervous system that your needs are the threat, that your voice is the threat, that your anger is the threat, that your limits are the threat. And over time, that becomes self-punishment. You're not just protecting other people from discomfort anymore. You're punishing yourself for having a self at all. That's how you end up in those emotional states where you feel guilty for needing rest, guilty for not replying fast enough, guilty for being hurt, guilty for asking, "Can you just talk to me with a little more care?" You end up apologizing just for having a nervous system. That cannot continue. So here's where we go next, and I need you to hear this like a soft instruction, not a harsh command. From now on, you do not apologize for needing regulation. You can apologize if you snapped at someone. You can apologize if you used words to wound. You can apologize if you went silent for 3 days and left somebody spiraling with no context. You can apologize for behavior that lands harm. That's accountability. That's good. But you do not apologize for having a limit. You do not apologize for being overwhelmed. You do not apologize for saying, "I can't keep talking about this tone right now. My chest is too tight." You do not apologize for saying, "I want to keep us safe and I need 15 minutes to come back down." That's not rude. That's regulation. And regulated you is safer than flooded you. Regulated you can listen, can repair, can connect, can be clear, can be present. Flooded, you can only defend or disappear. And I want you to notice how much of your relationship style, romantic, family, friendships, work, is actually built around you trying desperately not to flood. Over-explaining so no one gets mad. Over-performing so no one calls you selfish. Over-giving so no one leaves. Over-reading the room so you can fix the mood before it explodes. That's not personality. That's nervous system labor. You are working overtime to keep everyone regulated so no one dysregulates at you. And it makes sense. If dysregulated people in your past were dangerous, rejecting, explosive, cutting, silent, cold, unpredictable, of course you learn to micromanage every micro shift in the room. Your whole survival depended on keep them calm. But again, that was wiring, not identity. Which means you are allowed slowly, gently, clumsily, to stop doing 100% of the emotional stabilization in the room. Will it feel wrong? Yes. Will it feel selfish? Absolutely. Will you feel like you're suddenly not being a good partner? Per Dalton, utter. Per Esson, per F Rind, Seving co-worker. Yes. Will your stomach flip? Will your throat get tight? Will that survival, panic voice start yelling, fix it, or they'll leave? Yes. And still, you're allowed. Because this is what you're relearning. If someone in your life can only love you when you're regulating their feelings, they're not loving you, they're using you as a buffer. You can care about them deeply. You can understand why they are the way they are. You can hold compassion for what they've been through. And still, you're allowed to not be their buffer anymore. That is not cruelty. That is the first boundary. Let's talk about that word. Because boundary has gotten twisted into this idea of slamming doors and cutting people off mid-sentence and going cold. A real boundary is not violence. A real boundary is clarity. Hey, when you raise your voice, my whole body goes into panic. I want to stay connected, so I'm going to pause the convo when it goes there and come back when we're both down a notch. That's a boundary. It's not you're horrible. It's not don't ever talk. It's literally here is what keeps me available to this relationship. And maybe they'll say, thank you for telling me, I didn't realize. Or maybe they'll say, wow, you're so sensitive. I can't even express myself around you anymore. That second answer is information, not information about your worth. Information about the level of safety that relationship can actually offer you right now. This is the part that stings in the moment, but saves you long. Term honesty reveals capacity. When you finally tell the truth about what you actually need to feel safe, people show you who they can and cannot be for it. Some people will rise in a way that honestly might make you cry from relief. They'll shift. They'll soften. They'll say, okay, I can do that. Thank you for telling me instead of just silently pulling away. Others will get defensive, flip it back on you, make it about your tone, your timing, your delivery, your audacity to even ask, and you will be tempted to go back to silence, so you don't start something. But please hear this: going quiet doesn't prevent rupture. It just moves the rupture inside you. That's where resentment grows. That's where numbness grows. That's where you start to feel like a ghost, walking around inside your own connections. And eventually, that's where you emotionally check out months, sometimes years, before you physically leave. So when you feel that urge to swallow your boundary to keep the peace, ask yourself softly, whose peace are we keeping? And what does it cost me? Because peace that requires yourself, erasure, is not peace. It's decor. It just looks calm from the outside. Real peace isn't silent at your expense. Real peace is I can be here and still be me. That is the point of all of this. Not becoming untouchable. Not becoming hard. Not becoming I don't need anyone. Not becoming morally superior and above it all. The point is I can be in my life without abandoning myself in real time to earn permission to exist. That's regulation. That's boundary. That's safety. And safety is not just something you deserve. Safety is also something your nervous system literally needs in order to heal, repair, focus, sleep, digest, create, love, play. Basically in order to live like an organism and not like an alarm. Because your body cannot heal while it thinks it's in danger. And here's the final thing I want to leave in your hands right now. Your body does not know the difference between him actually in danger right now and him about to abandon myself again to make someone else comfortable. To your nervous system, both feel like threat. So when you choose yourself in a small way, even if it feels awful, you are actually telling your body, we're not going to throw you under the bus this time. You matter here. That's safety. That's the beginning of rest. And that is not selfish. That is repair.